On the day my twin sister was buried, Jiangke sat motionless by her grave for 3 days without eating or drinking. Every villager lamented how cruel fate had been to keep these soulmates apart. Even my own mother accused me, demanding to know why I had to steal Jiangke away. Everyone seemed to conveniently forget that Jiangke had been my husband for 32 years. At midnight, I was dazedly crossing the main road when a truck came speeding toward me. I could have dodged it, but I didn't want to anymore. Jiangke pushed me away and collapsed in a pool of blood. He begged me, if there's a next life, to return him pure and untainted to his sister. What purity! I laughed hysterically. When I opened my eyes again, it was the winter of 1977, the very beginning where all fates went awry. Jiao, are you really breaking up with Jiangke? He's one of only 2 villagers, your sister being the other, who got into college, the finest young man in our village. Xin Jiaojia shook her mother's hand, acting coquettishly. Mom, I'm about to go to college in the city. I can find any man I want. Why would I still hang around Jiangke, a country bumpkin? Seeing her mother's attitude soften, Xin Jiaojia pressed her advantage. It's not entirely a bad thing. Keep it in the family, right? My sister is single, so why not set her up with Jiangke? No. Her mother waved her hands repeatedly, her attitude firm. Your sister giving up her college opportunity for you is one thing, but this Jiangke matter is absolutely out of the question. The villagers will laugh at our family. Mom, Xin Jiaojia pretended to throw herself against the wall, threatening suicide. Mom, if you don't agree, I'll just smash my head against the wall and die. Mom tightly hugged the pretentious Xin Jiaojia from behind and said tearfully, oh, my darling, you're going to be the death of me. Fine, I agree. Isn't that enough? Standing outside the door, I could see their performance clearly through the crack. So that's how it was. So that's really how it was. What I mean is, although I had feelings for Jiangke in my past life, I never said or did anything inappropriate. When I learned my sister and Jiangke were dating, I hid my heartbreak behind a composed facade. I avoided Jiangke like the plague afterward, never initiating conversation. Then one day when Jiangke came looking for my sister, the villagers caught us in bed together. Turns out this whole scheme was orchestrated by my dear sister and mother. How ironic. I spent my past life drowning in guilt over this, willingly giving up my precious college opportunity to my sister. She became university student Xin Jiaozhao, while I married Jiangke under her original name Xin Jiaojiao. Turns out she and Mom had been coveting my college spot all along. Here you go. Dear sister, your man back. Please give me back my chance to go to college. In just 1 more month, I'll be able to leave the village for Beijing University. Xin Jiaozhao. I turned toward the voice and saw Jiangke standing not far from my house, waving at me. Jiangke was handsome and tall, the kind of guy who easily caught girls' attention, but all I could think about were his last words to me as he lay dying in a pool of blood, begging me that if there were a next life, to return him to my sister, untainted and whole. Xin Jiaozhao, I'm calling you, didn't you hear me? When I didn't respond, Jiangke brazenly stepped closer, grabbed my wrist, and started pulling me toward the small woods. I shook off his hand and spat in his face. Jiangke, if you're sick, get treatment. Why are you acting crazy and dragging me along? Don't forget you're my sister's boyfriend. Jiangke stood frozen, carefully studying the expression on my face. I knew Jiangke had also been reborn the moment he called out to me. I hate how well I know him, but he clearly doesn't know me as well as I know him. Jiangke hastily concluded that he alone had been reborn. Overwhelmed with excitement, he vowed nothing would stop him from spending this lifetime with Jiaojiao. As I turned to leave, Jiangke's low voice trailed behind me, half murmur, half warning. Xin Jiaozhao, call me delusional or absurd if you will, but I must say these words, stop loving me. I don't care for you at all. My heart belongs to your sister. If I married you, I'd get a vasectomy. I wouldn't give you any children, and we'd be resentful spouses for life. Jiangke really knows how to twist the knife. In my past life, I never had children. I went to the hospital countless times trying to conceive and tried many folk remedies, even losing 20 to 30 pounds in a single month. Back then, Jiangke even held me tenderly and said we didn't need kids, that it would just be him and me for life. I genuinely thought I'd married a good man and poured my heart and soul into him and his family, so he was the real reason I couldn't conceive. How dare he blame me entirely for our infertility in our past life? Just when you think people can't get any worse, they prove you wrong. I kept walking without pause until the courtyard gate clicked shut behind me. Then my legs gave way and I collapsed to my knees. When I touched my face, it came away wet with tears. If you don't love me, Then why did you marry me? Just to bully me, to use me, to squeeze every last drop of value out of me. If you don't love me, then why did you push me away, only to risk your life to save me? Mom's calling you to cook. Shin Jiaojiao came out, shouting at me without a care for my strange behavior. I looked up at my twin sister before me, who shares 7 or 8 parts of my face, yet what different fates we share. Shin Jiaojiao knew how to be cute and charming from a young age. While I was reserved by nature and rarely smiled, never as good as her at winning over adults, my mom loved taking Shin Jiaojiao around the village just to hear others praise her. Raised by my mom, she grew up fair and delicate with a spoiled personality, while I was like her downgraded version, dark, skinny, and scrawny. What are you staring at? Shin Jiaojiao asked strangely. I wiped away my tears and retorted, first of all, I'm your older sister, so address me properly. Secondly, cooking isn't just my responsibility, you can cook too. I stood up, nudged her aside with my shoulder, and went straight back to my room. It finally dawned on me that in my past life, I was too soft-hearted, which is why people took advantage of me. This life, I'm going to be a firecracker. Whoever messes with me gets blown up. Zhao, do you think mom's getting old? I've only been doing housework for 2 days, and my back is already killing me. I glanced at my mom nonchalantly. It wasn't her back that was bothering her, it was her eyes. I'd been helping with household chores since elementary school, and as I got older, I became the main person responsible for them. I've only taken 2 days off, and already my mom is giving me the cold shoulder, finding fault with everything I do. Shin Jiaojiao wouldn't lift a finger even if a soy sauce bottle tipped over her whole life. Why doesn't mom say anything about that? When mom saw I wasn't responding, she threw down the cleaver and jabbed her finger at my face, yelling, Shin Jiaojiao, just because you got into college, you think you're too good to lift a finger, no chores, no farm work, who do you think you are? Maybe Jiaojiao should take your college spot instead. The dagger is drawn. Doesn't matter, I'll handle it. I burst out of the house crying and screaming, I can't go on living. After finally getting into college, my mom's making me drop out so my younger sister can take my spot. Just let me die. Zhao, come back, let's talk this through properly. My mother called after me, trying to silence my outburst. Stopping was out of the question, and dying wasn't happening. I ran laps around the village just to make sure every single neighbor knew exactly how biased my mother could be. In my past life, I suffered because I was such a closed book, always bottling up my feelings. Not this time around, running my mouth, piece of cake. When the moment felt right, I slowed my pace and bolted toward the riverbank. Soon, Auntie Wang, the village busybody, scooped me up. I buried myself in her arms, wailing dramatically about my mother's favoritism, hammering the point home all over again. My mom tried to drag me back several times, but Auntie Wang kept fending her off. Nonsense. Village chiefly emerged from the crowd, his face stern, and reprimanded my mom. Suifan, was it your idea to have your younger daughter take your older daughter's place in school? My mom was about to argue, but I suddenly wailed even louder, and the villagers started speaking up, criticizing my mom and my sister. My mom's face turned beet red. She cared so much about appearances, and this time, she'd lost face completely. Inside and out, she looked at me pleadingly. But I was too busy crying to notice. She then turned to my sister, who always protected her reputation and hid behind the crowd to avoid our mother's gaze. Finally giving up, she mumbled, I was just joking with Zhao. Joking? How can you joke about something like this? Ever since Shin Guofu passed away, you've been acting more and more outrageously as a mother, village chiefly declared firmly. Don't ever mention taking someone else's place in school again. That's illegal. Yes, I understand, my mom immediately responded. My gaze cut through the crowd and landed on my sister, who wore a look of resentment. I could tell from her expression that this wasn't over. Growing up, whenever my sister wanted something that was mine, she would simply take it without asking, claiming it as her own. That evening, my mom unusually cooked 3 eggs, she, my sister, and I, 1 for each of us. My mom used to boil only 2 eggs, claiming they were for my sister and me, 1 for each of us. But I always felt bad for her and would give my egg to mom. It turns out the best solution was simply to boil 3 eggs. Jiao, are you home? Jiangke's voice came from outside the door. Shin Jiao shot me a triumphant glance, her head held so high it seemed to touch the sky, and walked out with her chest puffed out. My heart clenched involuntarily, and I chalked it up to withdrawal symptoms. After all, I was married to Jiangke for 30 years in my past life. That's a long time, long enough to find some sweetness even in a field of broken glass. Zhao Zhao, don't be mad at your sister, that's just how she is. My mother gave me a placating smile. I've actually had a question on my mind for a long time, and I just blurted it out. Mom, I was only born 1 minute before Xin Jiao. Does that 1 minute really make such a huge difference to you? You always told me since I was little that I'm the older sister, that I have to let her have her way. Take care of her, and bear the responsibilities of an older sister, but I'm only 1 minute older than her. Can't you stop being so biased? Hearing this, my mom's eyes welled up, and tears started streaming down her face. She even got defensive. How am I biased? Your dad passed away early. Do you think it was easy for me to raise you two sisters all by myself, playing both father and mother, and now you're blaming me? Will you only be satisfied if I'm dead? If this were in the past, I would have already been on my knees, apologizing to her. In my past life, I learned this term, gaslighting. My mom's gaslighting me, saving her tears for me and her smiles for my sister. No child should bear their parents' emotional baggage. When Mom saw me standing there coldly with folded arms, she stopped crying and went to do the dishes. Xin Jiao strode in beaming, carrying a box of pastries. Jiangke says he needs to talk to you. Seeing me still seated with no intention of going out, she snapped, Jiangke's waiting outside. How rude can you be? I gave her a sidelong glance. Even if you were married to him, which you're not, since when does the law require sisters to entertain their brothers-in-law? Used to getting her way, Xin Jiao simply yanked me toward the door. Before I knew it, she'd actually dragged me out of the courtyard. Jiangke, my sister's bullying me. Jiangke comforted Xin Jiao tenderly, only to turn accusatory when facing me. Xin Jiao. As the older sister, must you always pick on your younger sibling? I rubbed my wrist, red from Xin Jiao's grip, and hid my swollen hand behind my back. I lowered my head, suppressing the bitterness in my heart, and when I looked up again, my face was back to its usual cold, hard expression. Coldness is my disguise, my armor, my last shred of pride and self-respect. What does our family business have to do with an outsider like you? Jiangku exclaimed in shock. Xin Jiao. How could you be such a despicable person, bullying your own sister, and when I try to reason with you, you're not even ashamed. Instead, you're proud of it. Yes, I'm despicable and you're noble. This despicable person won't get in the way of you noble folks any longer. I turned to leave. Jiangke grabbed my wrist, and I hissed in pain. He released my hand and asked with concern and urgency, "What's wrong with your hand?" "None of your business. Get to the point if you've got something to say." I withdrew my hand, though my traitorous heart still softened at his concern. Jiangke's gaze remained fixed on my injured wrist, as if realizing Xin Jiao had been the one to hurt me moments earlier. Jiangke Xin Jiao cooed while shaking his arm playfully. Jiangke tilted his head to observe the radiant Xin Jiao, memories of their past life's regrets surfacing. He turned to look at me, his eyes darting away. Zhao. You're such a good student. Why don't you let Jiao have your spot at university? You can always take the exam again next year. Right. I clutched my chest. How could something hurt this much? 3. Smack. I slapped myself hard across the face, completely severing the part of me that still held any hope for Jiangke. Jiangke didn't understand why, but staring at Xin Jiao's expressionless face filled him with inexplicable panic, as if he'd lost something precious. Jiangke, you got into university too. Why won't you give your spot to my sister? Why must you all gang up on me? This Jiangke was the reincarnated version. He knew perfectly well how I'd envied my sister's college degree in our past life. How bitterly I'd regretted missing university. Sis, Jiangke's a man. How could I possibly take a male student's university spot? Xin Jiao protested irritably. What's that got to do with me? I studied my sister, born of the same mother. We should have been each other's closest allies, yet Mom had molded us into complete opposites. Jiangke, don't come looking for me anymore. I can't help my sister. You too. I paused, then forced out the words with difficulty. I wish you a lifetime of happiness together, and may you be blessed with children soon. Jiangke staggered backward several steps, his face pale as he stared at me in anguish, as if I'd uttered not blessings but some vile curse. For the next fortnight, my mother grew noticeably quieter. She'd often seem on the verge of saying something when facing me, but I deliberately pretended not to notice. Xin Jiao, meanwhile, took delight in murmuring to herself in my presence about how wonderful Jiangke was to her and how perfect their relationship had become. I brushed off her words like fart in the wind, counting down each day until my escape. Just 7 more days. Then I'd finally break free from this loveless family and reach my dream university. Shin Jiao Jiao, are you even listening to me? Shin Jiao Jiao shoved me, digging at my ear. I drawled, yeah. Why's my admission letter any of your damn business? I heard you demand my college admission spot in exchange for Jiangku, but I refuse. I laughed mockingly. So this was Jiangku's worth in Shin Jiao Jiao's heart across lifetimes. For someone who never truly cared for him, he pined his whole life and deceived me all mine. What a fool I've been. How dare you refuse? Shin Jiao Jiao's face twisted grotesquely, her voice shrill. Don't you love Jiangku? My expression turned icy. When did I ever say I liked Jiangku? If I hear this rumor outside, I'll make sure to shut your mouth permanently. Zhao Zhao, that's enough. My mother intervened as peacemaker. I shrugged indifferently, watching my mother and Shin Jiao Jiao whispering to each other. I knew they were scheming again, but I just needed to tread carefully through these last 7 days. It wasn't until I was home alone and saw Jiangku that I realized they were trying to pull the same old trick again, gripping a wooden stick. I stood cautiously at the courtyard gate, fully prepared to bolt at the first sign of trouble. After just half a month apart, Jiangku's demeanor had changed drastically. Gone was the sunny nice guy, replaced by this brooding, sinister man. Don't run, I just came to talk. I gripped the wooden stick tightly, warning him, stay right there and talk. Don't come any closer, or this stick won't recognize who you are. During this time, I had been doing my best to avoid Jiangku. Jiangku slammed his fist hard against the earthen wall of my house, looking dejected as he began to mutter under his breath. Jiao Jiao said you enjoy bullying her at home. She's actually a good student, but she's afraid of making you angry, so she deliberately does poorly on exams at school. She said you like me and want to take me away from her. I thought you were scheming to come between me and Jiao Jiao, but why? His words trailed off as he stole glances at my expression. Half hidden behind the door, my face flickered with unreadable emotions. I understood Jiangku's implication. He'd clearly noticed my recent avoidance, yet today Shin Jiao Jiao still managed to lure him here. At this point, even someone as dense as Jiangku could figure out that what happened in our past life had nothing to do with me. In our past life, he felt wronged, forced to marry me, but wasn't I forced to marry him as well? Jiangku slowly approached me, his affectionate eyes locked on me. Zhao Zhao, you're the only one who truly cares for me. I swung the wooden stick, aiming specifically for Jiangku's head. Get lost, come closer and I'll scream for help. If he were actually convicted as a hooligan, Jiangku's entire life would be ruined. Stop yelling, I'm leaving. Jiangku scrambled away in panic, choosing his future over this mess. Shin Jiao Jiao sprang from her hiding spot, accusing me. How dare you chase Jiangku away? I glared coldly at Shin Jiao Jiao and my mother standing behind her. I couldn't stay in this house any longer. Who knew what underhanded tricks that sly Shin Jiao Jiao might pull next? I had to get out immediately. I'm planning to go to town to see my second uncle. He's the one who's been best to me, 1,000 times more caring than my own mother. Second uncle is my dad's younger brother. The two of them were extremely close. Second uncle always says that my dad worked himself to death and died young just to pay for his education. So after my dad passed away, second uncle sent money and ration coupons to my mom every month. My mom always claimed she was the one raising me, but we both knew perfectly well that it was actually second uncle who provided for me. My mom has had it easy. When my dad was alive, she relied on him. After he was gone, she relied on my second uncle, and with me doing all the housework. She still spends her days moping around and complaining to everyone like some tragic figure. In my past life, when he found out I had given up my opportunity to go to college for Shin Jiao Jiao and stayed in the countryside to get married, he tried to persuade me many times, but because of Jiangku, I said a lot of harsh things to him, and finally, my uncle gave up on me and left disappointed. After being reborn in this life, I hid important documents like my acceptance letter with my uncle. To avoid any unnecessary complications, I should leave this house first, but when I pushed the door, I found it was locked from the outside with an iron lock. Shin Jiao Jiao's voice came from outside. Shin Jiao Jiao, hand over the admission letter. You're not leaving this house without it. How can I give you the admission letter if you won't open the door? Slip it through the door crack. Seeing Shin Jiao Jiao wasn't falling for it, I came clean. Jiao Jiao, I don't have the admission letter. Shin Jiao Jiao let out a wild, triumphant laugh. No admission letter. Fine, if I can't go to college, Shin Jiao Jiao, neither will you. I've been trapped in this pitch-black room for 4 days now. With the college registration deadline looming, I paced back and forth like a caged animal. Zhao Zhao, Mom, I pounded on the door. pleading with her, "Mom, please, I'm begging you, let me out, let me go to college. I won't have to pay tuition for college, and I won't spend any of the family's money, I'll even earn money to give to you." My mom was startled by my agitation and hesitated, but Jiao, sensing I was getting through, I coaxed her. "Jiao and I are sisters, we don't hold grudges. If I do well, I'll help Jiao too. Mom, I've never asked you for anything my whole life, just this once. Please help me, will you?" Silence lingered outside, just as I was losing hope. I finally heard the sound of a key turning in the lock, then Shin Jiao's icy voice cut through. "Mom, if you let Shin Jiao leave for college, I'll kill myself, your choice, her or me." My mother froze mid-turn of the key. From hope to despair, it takes only a few seconds. Tick-tock, I counted the seconds of despair, then heard my mom's voice. "Jiao, just listen to your sister." I whispered to myself, "Mom, why can't you just take my side for once?" "Ha, Shin Jiao. What makes you think you can compare with me?" Shin Jiao sneered. "That's the confidence only a favored child possesses." Refusing to back down, I snapped back, "Shin Jiao, go ahead and lock me up forever if you dare. I'll make it to college someday. This house can't contain me. Even if I can't attend college this year, there's always next year, or the year after. I'll get there eventually." "You'll never set foot in a university." I froze, confused, and asked, "What do you mean?" "Exactly what it sounds like," Shin Jiao drawled, revealing to me. "Mom and I have picked a husband for you, Wang Dakue from the village. I assume you know him. He's notorious around here for being lazy, a drunkard, and a wife-beater. His previous wife ran off without looking back after he beat her severely. Tisk, tsk, Shin Jiao, look at you. I told you to marry Jiangku, but you refused. Now you're marrying Wang Dakue. Are you happy now, Mom? Is this true?" I had given up on Shin Jiao, given up on Jiangku, but I still held a glimmer of hope for my mother. "Jiao, maybe, Wang Dakue isn't as bad as the rumors in the village say." "Ha ha ha." I burst out laughing. The biggest joke I've heard in my entire life, past and present, was actually told to me by my own mother. If Wang Dakue isn't that bad, then why don't you marry him, and why doesn't Shin Jiao marry him either? Let me tell you this, I'm not marrying anyone. I'd rather die than marry. Why you?" My mom was too angry to speak, and was led away by Shin Jiao. In the middle of the night, Jiangku's voice sounded from outside the door. "Jiao, I heard about what happened. How about you just marry me? But you still have to give up this university opportunity to Jiao. I've figured it out. You're a good student. You can take the exam again next year." I lifted my face from my knees and said wearily, "Jiangku, do you think you're so noble? Sacrificing yourself for Jiao, for your great love. In my eyes, you're nothing but a selfish, self-absorbed, despicable person." "Let me be clear, I don't like you, and I won't marry you." I'm only now realizing that I truly don't feel the slightest spark for Jiangku anymore. I must have had too little experience with men in my past life to have wasted my time on someone like Jiangku. Jiangku retorted, "How could that be? How could you not like me? You hand-copied exercise books for me, helped me sort out my weak subjects, and wrote over a dozen study notebooks for me. How is that not liking me?" So I really did like him that much back then, but I'd completely forgotten all of it, worn down by the hardships of my previous life. "Jiangku, if you ever felt I was good to you, if there was even a fleeting moment you appreciated it, then please, let me go. No, if you leave, you won't come back. Wait for me. Tomorrow, I'll break up with Jiao and marry you." Day turned to night and back to day as I sat slumped on the ground, when suddenly my gaze fell upon the matches and kerosene lamp. "Fire, help put out the fire," shouted villagers. My mother grabbed someone's arm and asked urgently, "Whose house is on fire?" "Suifan, why are you still wandering around? It's your house that's burning." By the time my mother arrived, she found half of our home burned to a crisp, and Shin Jiao had vanished without a trace. She grabbed the stunned Jiangku and demanded, "Where's my Jiao? Where is she? Is she alright?" 5. Jiangku pushed my mother away and said bitterly, "She's gone. She's never coming back." Jiangku blamed my mother, believing that if she hadn't pushed me so hard, I wouldn't have fled the village so decisively. Not coming back." My mother's voice trembled as she sat on the ground, completely distraught. She didn't care about our home with one room burned down. Nor did she care about Shin Jiao who hadn't returned home yet. It was as if she had suddenly, briefly awakened to her maternal love for me. Jiangku was among the first villagers to rush over to fight the fire. By the time he arrived, the flames were already raging. and he was about to dash into the room to save me without a second thought, but my second uncle was faster than him, charging into the house draped in a soaking wet quilt. When I woke up and saw Uncle, I threw myself into his arms and burst into genuine tears of anguish. I'd only meant to burn the wooden door, but underestimated the flames. The fire quickly spread through the room, and the thick smoke left me disoriented. Thankfully, Uncle came looking for me right when I was supposed to leave for college. His perfect timing saved my life. Fortunately, the firefighters arrived just in time to prevent a major disaster, seeing that my second uncle was about to take me away. Jiangku hurriedly chased after us, his eyes pleading, "Shen Zhao Zhao, let's talk," I agreed, while my second uncle glared at Jiangku from nearby, as if protecting a precious cabbage from being rooted by a pig. "Go ahead," I said, looking at the man before me. No love, no hatred, my gaze as calm as if I were looking at a stranger. "Zhao Zhao, don't look at me like that." Jiangku reached out to cover my eyes, his voice choked with tears. "If there's nothing else, I'm leaving. Don't go, Zhao Zhao. It was only when you were in that fire that I realized I love you. Can you?" "No." Seeing as he saved me today, I added, "My feelings for you were real back then, but my lack of feelings now is just as real. As for what happened in my past life, I'll just treat it as a dream." I think that's all that needs to be said. As second uncle and I were leaving, the heart-wrenching sound of Jiangku's cries echoed behind us, with him calling out my name, but neither second uncle nor I looked back. "You can still laugh. Do you have any idea you almost died?" Second uncle poked my forehead angrily. "I'm sorry, second uncle," I admitted meekly. "In my past life, Jiangku and my mother trapped me in the village under the guise of love, forcing me to farm, care for elders, and slave away for them. This lifetime, I've finally broken free from that cage." I'm utterly elated, spreading my arms to breathe in the air of freedom. From now on, the world's my oyster. No one can shackle me again. "You reckless little thing," second uncle sighed, his heart aching at the sight of my soot-streaked face and singed, uneven hair. How could he possibly scold me? He couldn't help blaming sister-in-law inwardly. How could she drive such a good kid to this point? I grinned. "No wonder Auntie always says I've got your temper. Asking for a spanking, are you?" Second uncle raised his hand but broke into laughter. When we arrived at Uncle's house, I stood at the doorway, hesitant to step into the bright, spotless living room. "What, do I need to formally invite you in?" Auntie, who had already prepared dinner, greeted me with a warm smile. Seeing my continued hesitation, she walked over, took my hand, and led me inside. That day at Uncle's house was the only truly happy day I'd had since my rebirth. I got up at night and overheard Uncle and Aunt's conversation before even leaving my room. Aunt's voice trembled with tears. "You've always helped your brother's family financially, and I've never complained, but look at Zhao Zhao today. She's so painfully thin when I held her. How could sister-in-law raise a child like this?" "Enough now. Keep your voice down. We don't want the child to hear." "I won't stay quiet. When Zhao Zhao goes to college, you must redirect part of the monthly allowance you give to sister-in-law's family to her, or else we're through." "I know. Tell me, how did I ever get so lucky to marry such a wonderful woman like you?" I clamped my hand over my mouth, stifling my sobs. "Because of my family. Uncle's been struggling financially for years. Even my cousins chose to live at school to save money. They're so good to me. How could I possibly bring them more trouble?" "Zhao Zhao, come out for dinner," called second aunt from outside the door. When no one answered, she pushed it open. The room was empty. On the table, she found the letter I'd left behind, along with an IOU. In 1977, university tuition was free, but I still needed living expenses, so I took 20 yuan from the envelope second uncle had given me the day before and slipped away before dawn. My university days were frugal yet fulfilling, surviving on plain steamed buns. I'd hoped college would let me earn some spare cash through part-time jobs, but reality hit hard. Turns out dreams are plump while life's all bones. Majoring in foreign languages was completely new territory for me. My rebirth gave me no academic edge, especially when classmates competed over who woke earliest and slept least. In this pressure cooker, forget about side gigs, I was even reciting vocabulary in my sleep. 3 months into semester, my last $20 vanished despite extreme frugality. I went from eating 3 steamed buns a day, down to just 1, and now to nothing but water. 6. My body finally gave out, and I fainted during class one day. When I opened my eyes, I was surrounded by my classmates. Everyone started speaking up, with some offering to take notes for me, others saying they could introduce me to tutoring jobs with their relatives' children, and so on. Not a single person showed contempt or dislike because of my poverty. This was the first time I truly understood what classmate camaraderie meant. People would argue fiercely over whose pronunciation was more standard, or intensely compete if your grades were better than theirs. Everyone was striving for self-improvement and collective progress. Professor Cheen, who taught the specialized course, shooed away the noisy students and handed me an envelope. "Consider this money a loan from me," he said sternly. "Pay me back when you can afford it. If you don't take it, you're not allowed in my class. My students have to listen to me. I've accepted everyone's kindness, and I've meticulously recorded every good deed done for me, writing it all down. They don't ask for anything in return, but I'm someone who always repays kindness, even if it's just fetching them a kettle of hot water, bringing them dinner, or doing whatever small thing I can." I had to study more diligently, pushing myself harder and harder, to be worthy of others' help and to be true to myself. 3 months later, my second uncle showed up at my school, dusty and travel-worn, looking like he was about to beat me right there in public. It turned out that after I left, my second uncle had been sending me money and food stamps, but they were always returned because of the incorrect address. This time, he had saved up his leave days to make the trip to my school to find me. Only after I promised him I would eat properly and accept the money and food stamps he sent, along with plenty of coaxing and pleading, did my second uncle reluctantly forgive me. I learned from my second uncle that after I left, he cut the money he gives to my mom and them in half. Shin Jiao brought my mom to make a scene several times, but finally backed down and quietly accepted the reduced amount after my second aunt threatened that if you cause any more trouble, you won't get a single cent. My second uncle also told me that my mom had quietly asked him about my whereabouts a few times, but he held firm and didn't tell her. He also said that my mom now looks years older, with half her hair turned white, and she's completely worn out. Seeing the determination in my eyes, second uncle abandoned his attempts to reconcile me with the family. After all, he'd witnessed firsthand the lengths I'd gone to escape that household for my education. On the day second uncle left the capital, watching his retreating figure suddenly brought tears to my eyes, crystallizing the long-faded memory of my father's face. The 4 years of university flew by amidst the competitive camaraderie among classmates. All my past unhappiness seemed to dissolve as I grew new flesh and bones, becoming someone entirely different from before. I'm confident, radiant, and brimming with vitality. During that time, I only reached out to second uncle's family, never contacted anyone else from home. Jiang came looking for me numerous times, but I refused to see him. Eventually he got smarter. He'd ask students from other departments to deliver letters, snacks, daily necessities, even money and ration coupons to me. I returned every single gift, and my classmates could clearly see how fed up I was with Jiang's behavior. They all made conscious efforts to shield me from students approaching from other departments. Even if Jiang still wanted to pursue me, his constant demands had exhausted the goodwill of students from other departments, who eventually stopped helping him. During those 4 years, my mother visited campus twice to see me. Now barely 50, she looked even more aged than she had in her 60s or 70s during my past life. Understandable, in that previous life, with me attentively taking care of everything. She never lifted a finger and only needed to give orders, with me, the ever-dutiful workhorse, out of the picture, and Shin Jiao being utterly useless. She had to handle everything herself. Add Shin Jiao's constant nagging to the mix, no wonder she aged prematurely. But both times I brushed her off hastily. The last time, I told her bluntly, "Don't come looking for me again. Once you reach retirement age, I'll send you the bare minimum living allowance required by law. Our mother-daughter bond ends here. You probably won't believe this, but I've spent my whole life taking care of you and enduring your complaints. I've repaid every debt I owed." She shuffled away from my school trembling, and true to her word, we never bothered each other again. After graduation, thanks to my excellent academic performance and the strong recommendation from my teachers, I landed a job at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. As work became increasingly demanding, I sent my entire monthly salary to my second uncle and his family. When they refused to accept it, I told them I would throw it away if they didn't take it, so they had no choice but to keep the money. I never entered into a relationship, although I had no shortage of outstanding, like-minded suitors. I always turned them down directly. It wasn't that I was afraid, I simply couldn't muster any interest. I felt completely indifferent toward men, romance, and marriage. At first, uncle and aunt kept trying to talk me out of it, but eventually gave up when they saw I was doing just fine on my own. after uncle and aunt retire, I'll bring them to Beijing to live with me under the guise of helping them relax. They tried returning all the money I'd sent them over the years. I was shocked to see it totaled nearly 300,000 yuan. After some thought, I accepted it, pulled another 500,000 yuan with a few close friends, and bought a courtyard house in the city center for them. They complained it was extravagant at first, but their joy became unmistakable after moving in. Uncle's new passion is strolling through parks and chatting with old Beijing locals, while Auntie launched her second career, running a small business in the capital. When Auntie mentioned wanting to start a business, she kept glancing at me nervously, worried I might find it embarrassing. I said with a warm smile, "As long as it makes you happy, I'll always be your strongest supporter." I'll never forget how comforting Auntie's hug was when I hesitated about dirtying her living room. When my younger cousins grew up and were ready to work, I strongly encouraged them to come to Beijing. Not only does the city offer greater career opportunities, but selfishly, I'd also wanted to keep my uncle and aunt close to me, even if work keeps us from meeting daily. Just knowing someone in this city is waiting for me to come home gives me peace of mind. My words carry weight in my uncle's household, and my cousins genuinely value my advice. They actually moved to Beijing to build their careers, within organizational boundaries. I've supported them wholeheartedly. Housing, jobs, daily needs, nothing escapes my attention. They proudly introduce me as their blood sister to everyone. I listened with a smile. As you sow, so shall you reap. I was the harvest my uncle and aunt had reaped for themselves. I thought to myself, my life has been complete. Aunt Zuifan, are you home? Zhang Zuifan kept vigil before the television, unaware when Zhao Zhao might appear. With no better option, she resorted to the simplest method, watching whenever she could. "Ah, here it comes," she murmured, her aged frame leaning heavily on a cane as she shuffled slowly toward the courtyard. Cui Xiuxiu surveyed the dilapidated house with visible bewilderment. The old woman had reportedly favored her younger daughter in youth, driving away her capable eldest. Though the younger married a local college graduate, advancing years only deepened the mother's longing for her estranged firstborn. Alone in the crumbling home, she maintained her vigil with one explanation: should her eldest daughter ever return, she mustn't find an empty house. Cui Xiuxiu also knew about that capable eldest daughter. She often saw her on TV speaking out for the country. Well, I guess it just goes to show that even those we pity often have a hand in their own misfortune. Aunt Zuifan, this is the living allowance Sister Zhao Zhao sent you this month. Zhang Zuifan took it, carefully tucking it into her pocket. It was her only connection to Shen Zhao Zhao. After Zhang Zuifan turned 60, Shen Zhao Zhao really did as she promised and sent her money every month. Aunt Zuifan, that room in your house has been burnt for almost 20 years. Once you get the money, you should really find someone to fix it. Oh, okay. Cui Xiuxiu was exasperated. Aunt Zuifan would agree to everything she said, but whether she actually did it was another matter entirely. 7. Not long after Cui Xiuxiu left, rural woman Shen Jiaojiao kicked open the rickety door and shouted, "You old hag, Shen Jiaojiao sent you money again today, didn't she? Hand it over." Watching TV again, no matter how much you stare at that screen, Shen Jiaojiao isn't coming back. Only after cursing her fill did Shen Jiaojiao leave smugly with the money. Zhang Zuifan muttered numbly. This is retribution, pure retribution. Shen Jiaojiao took the money, spent it all with her lover, and only then swaggered back home. Where have you been? None of your business. Shen Jiaojiao looked at the dejected Jiangku with disdain. Jiangku saw the red marks on Shen Jiaojiao's neck, his veins bulged, and he started tearing at her. "You cheating slut, I'm divorcing you." Gaunt Jiangku was no match for the obese Shen Jiaojiao, who promptly pinned him down and pummeled him into the ground. Only after thoroughly beating him did Shen Jiaojiao spit contemptuously in his face before swaggering off. Motionless on the ground, Jiangku reflected bitterly on his miserable life, utterly baffled at how things had come to this. Having failed to marry Shen Jiaojiao, he'd settled for Shen Jiaojiao instead, who proceeded to turn the Jiang household upside down until his parents literally died from her torment. He gave up on himself, refusing to work or even leave the house, instead spending his days fighting with Shen Jiaojiao at home. Yet Shen Jiaojiao, who had died young in their past life, was actually growing healthier through all their arguments this time around, while his own health steadily declined. Without Shen Jiaojiao, he realized he was nothing at all, and as for Shen Jiaojiao, her life only got better after leaving him. "Jiaojiao, come back, come back. I don't want that wretched Shen Jiaojiao anymore. I only want you." Jiangke reached his hand toward the scorching sun. but the sun remained silent, hanging high in the sky. Story 2. In our 5th year of marriage, my husband Hui Yuli proposed making up for our missed honeymoon, but when the plane crashed, he forced me to give the only parachute to his childhood sweetheart Zhou Wen. I stared at him in disbelief. Hui Yuli, have you forgotten? Your daughter is still on this plane. Hui Yuli apologized softly, saying our daughter was the apple of his eye and should have it first. Thankfully it was just a scare. After the plane landed safely, Hui Yuli shielded me as always, yet the next day, he strapped our naked daughter to a drone. The man held his white moonlight while giving me an icy stare. Ji-won, if you hadn't insisted on giving the parachute to our daughter, Wen wouldn't have been traumatized enough to have nightmares. If you truly care about your daughter, let her learn her lesson the hard way. She turned and dialed Hui Yuli's business rival. You want to ruin Hui Yuli? Marry me, we'll destroy him together. All because I refused to give my parachute to his beloved Zhou Wen. The next day, my husband strapped our naked daughter to a drone. I wept in disbelief. Hui Yuli, you've completely lost your mind. How could you betray your own flesh and blood for a woman? Hui Yuli's gaze turned icy. Ji-won, if you hadn't insisted on giving the parachute to our daughter, Wen wouldn't have had nightmares all night. Tying our daughter to the plane was for her own good, to help build her courage. My face remained expressionless. I can't believe Hui Yuli would say such things about our daughter, but with the plane taking off, I had no time to argue with Hui Yuli. Hui Yuli, she'll die if she falls. I'm begging you, just let her go, please. Take your anger out on me instead. If you want a divorce, I'll agree, I pleaded desperately. Hui Yuli shot me a disgusted glance before turning to ask Zhou Wen if she had a headache. My heart sank, my daughter's wails pierced my heart, and I begged Zhou Wen. Zhou Wen feigned concern. Yuli, you should put an end down now. Sister Ji-won already dislikes me. I'd hate to cause any marital strain between you two over this. Hui Yuli gently pinched the woman's nose and sighed. Wen, you're just too soft-hearted. I've spoiled and rotten. It's time she learned some hard lessons. Hui Yuli was determined to teach his daughter a lesson. Watching my daughter's terrified, speechless expression, I let out a cold laugh. 5 years of compromise. I've had enough. On our wedding day, Hui Yuli's first love returned from abroad and was brought into our home that very night. At first, Hui Yuli reassured me that Zhou Wen would leave once she found a job, but gradually, he began treating Zhou Wen like his wife, pampering her endlessly, while forcing me and our daughter to slave away for them. Because Zhou Wen disliked weeds, Hui Yuli made our daughter kneel and pull them out one by one. Since Zhou Wen loved puppies, Hui Yuli deliberately procured one and began treating their daughter like a dog to train. I thought Hui Yuli could change for the better, but no, he only grew worse. Seeing I couldn't persuade Hui Yuli, I turned to leave. The man grabbed my wrist, hissing through clenched teeth. Ji-won, off to see your lover again. When Zhou Wen had stomach pains, Hui Yuli abandoned me on the highway. That very night, I was violated, yet Hui Yuli believed I was still pining for someone else. I smirked bitterly. None of your business. Zhou Wen crossed her arms and spoke with feigned innocence. Sister Ji-won, it's nothing serious, just kneel and kowtow to apologize. Then give me that necklace as compensation, then I'll forgive Anan. I was humiliated by Zhou Wen. Hui Yuli stood by without uttering a single word in my defense. In his eyes, I was just a pet kept to amuse Zhou Wen. My daughter screamed through her tears, begging me to save her from the pain. Gritting my teeth, I agreed. Fine. Hui Yuli, you'd better keep your word. Hui Yuli scoffed coldly. Ji-won, I won't go back on my word. Hui Yuli had his principles. He despised nothing more than breaking promises. His word alone was enough. Without hesitation, I knelt at Zhou Wen's feet and kowtowed to her several times. My forehead was swollen and red, yet I felt nothing. Had enough. I kept banging my head until Zhou Wen told me to stop, until a terrifying gash appeared on my forehead. Hui Yuli's eyes betrayed his reluctance. He instinctively reached to steady me, but I dodged his touch. I've held up my end. Hui Yuli, now release our daughter. Hui Yuli responded with a derisive snort. Just as Hui Yuli was about to give the order, Zhou Wen suddenly cried out, Yuli, my chest feels so tight. It must be from the fright on the plane. I still feel like I might die. Hui Yuli pulled Zhou Wen into a comforting embrace. Nothing pained him more than seeing Zhou Wen in tears. Hui Yuli broke his promise. For Zhou Wen's sake, he crossed his own moral boundary. The man's gaze turned icy. Wen. What game are you playing now? Consider this Ji-won and her daughter paying their debt. Vent all your anger. I've got your back. My husband shielded his precious muse, declaring he'd punish his wife and daughter to defend her honor. I let out a bitter laugh. The next instant, Hui Yuli dragged me onto the aircraft. He left only one parachute, forcing me to choose between saving myself or our daughter. I held my daughter's trembling body in my arms. I soothed her gently, sweet and in. Don't be afraid, mommy will protect you. I fastened the only parachute onto Anin while shielding her from the wind. Seeing me swaying unsteadily, a flicker of pity flashed in Hui Yuli's eyes, seething with suppressed anger. Chi-wan, would you really give your life for your daughter? Since you've got no will to live, let's see how long you can last. Meeting Zhou Wen's triumphant gaze, I smiled wordlessly. 5 years of love couldn't compete with his first love. But I still want to fight for myself and our daughter one last time. Hui Yuli, are you really trying to get me and our daughter killed? If the plane crashes, neither of us has a parachute. That bit of cold wind wouldn't have been life-threatening for Zhou Wen. Zhou Wen is lying to you. But Hui Yuli wouldn't believe it. Hui Yuli was convinced I envied Zhou Wen and was scheming to harm his beloved. Chi-wan, there are paramedics below. You and our daughter will be safe. My daughter was burning up with a high fever. I carried my daughter to the doorway. As the parachute deployed, I soothed my daughter. Don't be scared, Anin. We'll descend slowly. My daughter clung tightly to my hand, unwilling to let go. The plane was shaking violently. If this continued, both my daughter and I would die. I lowered my daughter wearing the parachute. Before I could catch my breath, a scream pierced the air. The parachute malfunctioned, sending my daughter crashing to the ground. A chill ran down my spine. Standing on the drone, I reached out to catch my daughter, but it was hopeless. Hui Yuli, I'm begging you, please take Anin to the hospital. If this continues, she'll die. Hui Yuli clenched his fists, a momentary tension gripping him. The next second, Zhou Wen looped her arm through his. Yuli, everything will be fine. The parachute caught the child. It was just a minor accident. The obstructing rocks blocked Hui Yuli's view, hiding the blood on his daughter's head, yet I saw it all too clearly. Despair crept through my heart. For the first time, I felt hatred toward Hui Yuli. Hui Yuli, what will it take for you to send our daughter to the hospital? Hui Yuli's gaze was icy. Chi-wan, Anin is my daughter too. Do you really think I'd harm her? Just giving her a little lesson to toughen her up. Once Wenwen vents her anger, I'll take her to the hospital. Meeting Hui Yuli's gaze, I smiled wordlessly. Hui Yuli meant every word. He intended to teach us mother and daughter a lesson. Backing Zhou Wen all the way. Zhou Wen, name your terms. All I want is for my daughter to live. Zhou Wen huddled pitifully behind Hui Yuli. She's stalling for time, trying to get my daughter killed. Watching my daughter's pitiful, fading breaths tore my heart apart. Hui Yuli's heart is biased. Last year, when Zhou Wen got a scratch on her finger, Hui Yuli forced me to donate the maximum amount of blood for her, only to later discover he'd fed it to his dog. When I confronted him, Hui Yuli just stared coldly and said, Chi-wan, Wenwen finds your blood filthy, only the best will do. 2 years ago, when Zhou Wen got a scratch on her cheek, Hui Yuli poured scalding water on my face. Zhou Wen's face remained flawless, while I was left with permanent scars. The repeated cruelty made me see Hui Yuli for who he truly is. I'll never receive an ounce of compassion from Hui Yuli. Under the man's icy gaze, I leaped from the plane. Hui Yuli let out a startled cry. My body slammed onto the ground, blood seeping into the earth. Gritting my teeth, I dragged myself to Anin and revealed my daughter's bleeding forehead. Hui Yuli, send someone to take Anin to the hospital immediately. Look at her condition, she's dying. My whole body trembled as I spoke with a hoarse voice. Hui Yuli's wife and daughter stood before him, drenched in blood. The man's breath hitched. Instinctively, he reached out to scoop up his daughter, but the next moment, Zhou Wen cried out coquettishly, Yuli, I've cut my ankle, my heart hurts too, this is all my fault, causing you trouble. Hui Yuli scooped Zhou Wen into his arms with a strained expression, shooting me a restrained glance. Chi-wan, don't worry. I'll have someone take you and our daughter to the hospital shortly. It's just a little game, nothing that'll actually kill you. As my daughter's breathing grew fainter, I completely lost it. On my knees, clutching my daughter, I pleaded with Hui Yuli, I'm begging you, please, just take Anin to the hospital first. Zhou Wen lied to you, she's perfectly fine. Hui Yuli glared at me coldly, scolding me for going too far. The man turned and walked away without so much as glancing at me or our daughter. The ambulance crew Hui Yuli promised never arrived. By the time the ambulance came, our daughter had already flatlined. I took out my phone and called Hui Yuli's rival. Hey, didn't you want to take down Hui Yuli? Marry me, and I'll help you, too. After gathering my daughter's ashes, I returned home. Hui Yuli was cooking dinner for Zhou Wen. I still remember how Hui Yuli hated the smell of cooking oil. Even when I was 8 months pregnant, I was always the one cooking, but now, Hu Yuli willingly cooks for Zhou Wen with his own hands. In the past, I would have confronted him about it, but now, there's no need anymore. My daughter is gone, and so is my will to live. As I brushed past him, Hu Yuli frowned and called me back. Qi Wan, what's with that attitude? Isn't An still throwing a tantrum and refusing to come back? I was just toughening her up, it wouldn't have killed her. I smiled bitterly. Our daughter is dead, happy now. Hu Yuli's brow furrowed, his voice icy as he told me to stop playing the victim. He couldn't care less about our daughter's fate. Zhou Wen feigned concern. Qi Wan is just exhausted. Yuli, don't blame her. I stayed silent. I suddenly snapped, choking Zhou Wen with a death grip. As suffocation set in, terror washed over Zhou Wen's face. Yuli, save me. Hu Yuli shoved me away. The man's brute strength sent me crashing onto shattered glass. Blood oozed from my palms, but the physical pain was nothing compared to the agony in my heart. I looked up. Zhou Wen, so you're capable of feeling pain too. So she does have a heart, then why did she have to kill my 5-year-old daughter? Hatred coalesces. At this moment, I want Hu Yuli and Zhou Wen to join my daughter in death. Entering the room, the bridal chamber looked completely different. My daughters and my clothes were thrown in the trash. Zhou Wen's lace lingerie and nightgown lay sprawled across our marital bed. Our wedding photo had been flung to the floor, torn down the middle. I removed the plastic ring Hu Yuli bought me and tossed it into the trash. Hu Yuli averted his eyes. Qi Wan, Wen isn't feeling well. Let her stay in the south-facing bridal suite. I remained silent and turned to leave. Qi Wan, if you hadn't insisted on giving the parachute to our daughter, Wen wouldn't be having these heart palpitations. Since our daughter is recuperating in the hospital and can't make amends, you'll have to do it in her place. You'll be in charge of Wen's daily care. Stock up on more fruits, she loves them. Hu Yuli still refused to believe his daughter was gone. Now they even had me waiting on Zhou Wen. Remembered the appointed time with that person. I smiled and said, Hu Yuli, I accept. In the following days, I watched Hu Yuli buy Rose City for that woman, watched him gift her limited edition jewelry. Watched them locked in passionate kisses, inseparable. I stood aside, my stomach churning with nausea. I held it in. Hu Yuli finally glanced at me. Qi Wan, you'd better not play mind games to hurt Wen. I shook my head with a relieved smile. Hu Yuli, we're through, waiting for that person's call. They told me my ID had been deactivated. The car sent to pick me up was already waiting outside. Zhou Wen suddenly retched as I was leaving. Yuli, by my calculations, we should be expecting a child by now. Hu Yuli grew anxious and insisted on taking her to the hospital for examination. I tactfully stepped aside, watching with an impassive expression. Hu Yuli's heart suddenly raced with panic. He instinctively grabbed my wrist. Qi Wan, don't take it to heart. Even if Wen gets pregnant, we'll have the child raised by you. Hu Yuli's explanation sounded feeble and unconvincing. No need, Hu Yuli, now that our daughter is gone. You should focus on the child you have with Zhou Wen. I forgot to tell Hu Yuli, the moment our daughter died, my marriage with him reached its end. Seeing my indifference, Hu Yuli's expression suddenly turned icy. Scrolling through my feed, I saw Hu Yuli had posted a proposal photo. The caption read, "The unattainable love of my youth now rests in my palm." My gaze lingered on Zhou Wen's diamond ring, suddenly reminding me of my own plastic one. In fact, I begged for a whole year to get it back. Back then, Hu Yuli carelessly tossed it to me. Qi Wan, the ring isn't valuable, but you know what matters most is the sentiment behind it. Overjoyed, I nodded in agreement, but I forgot, if Hu Yuli truly loved me, he wouldn't have humiliated me with a plastic ring. I sent Hu Yuli both the proof of my ID cancellation and the evidence that Zhou Wen caused our daughter's death. I turned and got into the car of Hu Yuli's rival. 3. In the hospital, Zhou Wen smiled radiantly, linking arms with the man. Yuli, we're going to have our own baby. Aren't you happy? Hu Yuli's heart skipped a beat as he absent-mindedly tousled the woman's long hair. Even Hu Yuli himself couldn't pinpoint the source of his irritation. To celebrate, Hu Yuli took Zhou Wen to a 5-star hotel. Hu Yuli sent me a message. Qi Wan, if you and our daughter apologize to Wen, you'll remain Mrs. Hua. And she'll still be the apple of my eye. In the past, I would have replied instantly, but this time, hours passed without a single response. Coincidentally, news of a car accident broke. A dull ache gripped Hu Yuli's chest as he dialed the butler. Where's Qi Wan? The butler stammered. Sir, the car madam was in had an accident. Hu Yuli stared at his phone and let out a cold laugh. What an unbelievable coincidence. The moment he saw the accident news, Ji-won had a mishap. Hui Yuli saw right through my scheme and gave icy instructions. If Ji-won admits her mistake, make her apologize to Wenwen, she'll remain Mrs. Hui only if Wenwen forgives her. With that, Hui Yuli abruptly ended the call. News spread about the Hui heir lighting up the entire city with fireworks for his first love. He expected me to confront him, but I didn't, because I was thousands of miles away in France. I'm aware of Mr. Wen's request, a few years back. I happened to rescue the Wen family patriarch from drowning. The old Mr. Wen is gravely ill, and his greatest wish is to see Shuji settled down. He'd be even happier if I were the one marrying into the family. When Shuji handed me a document, Miss Chi is a smart woman who knows what to say and what not to say. If Miss Chi has any requests, feel free to bring them up. I'll certainly help with whatever I can. After a 3-second pause, I let out a sigh. I'd like to trouble Mr. Wen to orchestrate a scheme for me. Hui Yuli received news of my fatal car accident late at night, the shattered phone screen and the jade bracelet on my wrist, symbolizing my status as Mrs. Hui, left him no room for doubt. Hui Yuli called the butler. Didn't I tell you to keep an eye on her? Hui Yuli's eyes burned crimson, fury simmering beneath the surface. Suddenly, he remembered our daughter. He couldn't help but remind. Go check on Anan, don't tell her, her mother is gone. The butler hesitated. Sir, Miss Anan has already passed away, her ashes were taken home by the madam, but yesterday, Miss Zhou needed a flower pot, so you gave her the urn. Hui Yuli refused to believe it. He couldn't accept our daughter's death, let alone that he was responsible for it. A sharp pain pierced his chest as Hui Yuli instinctively furrowed his brows. He didn't even know how to ease the agony. That night, Hui Yuli got drunk and called me countless times. No one answered. Hui Yuli suddenly chuckled. Ji-won, are you trying to punish me? Hui Yuli had forgotten. When our daughter had a fever, I'd called him over and over. When Hui Yuli finally answered impatiently, a woman's moans came through the line. Time and again, he'd brush me off for Zhou Wen's sake. All he'd ever do was snap. Ji-won, if you can't even take care of our daughter properly, what good are you for anything else? Now that nobody bothered him anymore. Hui Yuli found himself far from relieved as he'd expected. Little did he know, he had already lost what mattered most. Zhou Wen saw Hui Yuli drunk, mumbling my name and our daughter's. Zhou Wen refused to accept defeat. She deliberately plotted to kill me, that much was clear. Why does Hui Yuli still care so much? A shadow flickered in Zhou Wen's eyes. After all, only she deserves to be Mrs. Hui. Zhou Wen faked a miscarriage. Hui Yuli jolted awake and pulled the woman into an apologetic embrace. I'm sorry Wenwen, I've been neglecting you. Let's get married. I owe you and our child this commitment. News broke of Hui Yuli and Zhou Wen's marriage. I felt a wave of relief. When Shuji looked surprised, I thought you'd be making a scene. When Shuji didn't mince words, in the past, I would have been hysterical and demanding answers, but with my daughter gone, nothing matters anymore. I turned to Wen Shuji. Let's schedule it for Hui Yuli's wedding day. Consider it my wedding gift to them. On the day Hui Yuli married Zhou Wen, I attended the event arm in arm with Wen Shuji. Hui Yuli reached out to caress my face. Ji-won, why did you fake your death to deceive me? Didn't you know I'd be worried? Hui Yuli is such a hypocrite. I sneered and asked just one question. Now that our daughter is dead, do you finally believe me? Hui Yuli's fingers froze. I stepped forward and slapped Hui Yuli across the face with the back of my hand. This slap is payback for what you did to my daughter. Hui Yuli, you're not worthy of being her father. Hui Yuli's hands went limp. He never expected me to hate him this much. I clapped my hands, and the next second, a video of Hui Yuli entangled with Zhou Wen appeared on the big screen. This happened while I was pregnant with our daughter. The crowd was stunned. TSK, who would have thought Mr. Hui, who puts on such a show of loving his wife and daughter, could be this despicable? Everyone knows Mr. Hui has a cherished white moonlight in his heart, for whom he's constantly mistreated his wife. Hui Yuli tried to stop me, but he couldn't hold me back. The screen flipped, revealing Hui Yuli circulating footage of my daughter on a drone, all for his precious white moonlight. Their daughter was bleeding profusely, yet Hui Yuli stood coldly by, holding Zhou Wen in his arms. He even abandoned his own flesh and blood in the wilderness just because Zhou Wen sprained her ankle. That's downright inhuman behavior from Chairman Hui. You wouldn't treat a stranger with such cruelty, let alone your own daughter. Hui Yuli's wedding was documented by media outlets. The scandal of Hui Yuli killing his own daughter for his white moonlight would spread like wildfire overnight. The Hui family's stocks plummeted, and Hui Yuli's reputation was utterly ruined. The man stared intensely at me. Chi-wan, do you really hate me this much? Hui Yuli, this is what you owe Nen. My daughter, she was just a child, and you took her life. Hui Yuli, someone like you doesn't deserve to live in this world. Hui Yuli froze. Did Hui Yuli really think this was enough? I sneered and clapped my hands. I hauled Hui Yuli onto the drone. What he did to my daughter, I'll return in kind. Hui Yuli. There's only one parachute, choose, for you or for Zhou Wen. Hui Yuli frowned. Zhou Wen pleaded urgently, Yuli, I don't want to die, I'm carrying your child, I can't let anything happen to me. Seeing Zhou Wen's pale face, Hui Yuli suppressed his temper and gently stroked her back. Wenwen, I won't abandon you. The man glared at me. Chi-wan, give the parachute to Wenwen, if you hate me, take it out on me, don't hurt her and the child. Hui Yuli would sacrifice himself for Zhou Wen. Yet when it came to me and Anin, he showed nothing but cruelty. My daughter died the day he stood up for Zhou Wen. I let out a cold laugh. I threw the evidence of my daughter's death at Hui Yuli. Hui Yuli, don't you want to know what your precious moonlight has done? Black and white, crystal clear. Zhou Wen sabotaged the parachute, feigned illness, and forced Hui Yuli to strap their daughter to a drone. Hui Yuli's eyes trembled as he gripped Zhou Wen's throat, demanding answers. You ordered this, didn't you? Zhou Wen averted her gaze, wanting to argue but confronted by undeniable facts. Yuli, let me explain. Hui Yuli stared coldly at Zhou Wen. I remained silent without interrupting. The woman took Hui Yuli's hand and placed it on her lower abdomen. Yuli, I did it all for our child. I didn't mean to cause Anan's death. Please don't be angry with me. Hui Yuli shook off Zhou Wen's hand, his gaze icy. I lost my temper for the first time. Zhou Wen, you've gone too far. I lost all interest in watching the show, clapped my hands and told Zhou Wen to put on the parachute, since Mr. Hui gave his parachute to his wife. Zhou Wen, you should put it on and jump. Zhou Wen's hands trembled. Chi-wan, you're trying to kill me, aren't you? You must have tampered with this parachute. Zhou Wen pleaded with Hui Yuli. Yuli, where are your bodyguards? Get them to save me now. Chi-wan wants me dead. She'd have me take a fatal fall, despite everything. Hui Yuli softened when he learned Zhou Wen was carrying the Hua family's heir. Chi-wan, let Zhou Wen go, she's with child now. With half the Hua family's shares in my grasp, I'm forcing Hui Yuli's hand. Since Zhou Wen isn't willing, I suppose these shares mean nothing to you either. Hui Yuli took a deep breath. He coaxed Zhou Wen gently. Wenwen, put on the parachute. I know Chi-wan, she wouldn't actually kill you. Hui Yuli's gaze was icy, his tone broking no argument. Hui Yuli personally strapped the parachute onto the woman before shoving her forward. The parachute malfunctioned midair for several seconds. Zhou Wen screamed hysterically in midair, her face contorted with panic. A dull ache spread through my chest, and I couldn't hold back my tears. My daughter must have been terrified when they forced her off that plane. Hui Yuli stared at me. Chi-wan, you've gotten what you wanted. Hui Yuli stared at me with icy contempt. I shook my head. Not enough. I led Hui Yuli to my daughter's grave. With a small knife, I carved wound after wound into Hui Yuli's arm. Blood gushed from the wound as Hui Yuli gasped in pain. Chi-wan, you've lost your mind. Didn't Hui Yuli realize that already? The moment he pushed our daughter off that plane, I'd gone completely mad. I forced Hui Yuli to his knees, demanding he kowtow and beg our daughter's forgiveness. Hui Yuli refused. Chi-wan, if Anan were still alive, she wouldn't want to see you like this. How ironic. Hui Yuli was actually trying to talk sense into me. I clicked play on the video. In the scene, Anan stood by the garden, asking with childlike innocence, Mommy, if I give all these flowers to Daddy, will he finally like me? When will Daddy take me to the amusement park? Chi-Chi and the others have all been there except me. Mommy, does Daddy hate me? Why does he never hug me? His daughter's innocent words cut through Hui Yuli's heart like a knife. The cold wind made Hui Yuli realize tears were streaming down his face. Hui Yuli collapsed to his knees before his daughter's grave, staring at that youthful little face on the tombstone. It suddenly dawned on him that he'd never once initiated a hug with his daughter. Whenever his daughter called, Hui Yuli would always hang up. He lied about being busy with work while actually fooling around with Zhou Wen. A lump formed in Hui Yuli's throat as regret washed over him. I'm sorry, Anan. You have every right to hate your father. What have I done? He had actually killed his own child with his own hands. 5. Hui Yuli's eyes trembled. The slap landed on the man's cheek, but Hui Yuli felt no pain. Hui Yuli's eyes darkened with unreadable emotions. Chi-wan, I've been terribly wrong. Hui Yuli stood up, his gaze fixed on me. Hui Yuli left, the Hua family went bankrupt, and Hui Yuli fell from grace to utter destitution. Zhou Wen was initially willing to stay with Hui Yuli. But his gaze remained icy. Every time he saw her, he was reminded of his daughter. Gradually, Huiyuli and Zhou Wen began quarreling every other day. Without a single peaceful day, Zhou Wen grew increasingly resentful. She had an affair with a tycoon, right before Huiyuli's eyes. Zhou Wen was getting intimate with the wealthy man. They even made Huiyuli buy them toys to spice things up. Huiyuli refused. Zhou Wen, I've given you all my devotion, how could you do this to me? The bodyguard pinned the man to the ground. Zhou Wen let out a coquettish laugh. Why, Huiyuli, you claim to love me yet refuse to marry me. I had to take matters into my own hands to get what I want. And Huiyuli, do you still think you're the CEO? Right now, you're not even worth as much as a street sweeper. By the way, I got rid of your child long ago. Huiyuli, you murdered your own child with your own hands. Ha! You don't deserve love, Huiyuli. Zhou Wen's words cut Huiyuli to the core. The man suddenly broke free from the bodyguards and stabbed Zhou Wen in a frenzied rage. The tycoon fled in panic. Zhou Wen cowed out in desperate apology. Yuli, I did love you once. Please take me to the hospital. I don't want to die. I shook my head. Despite Zhou Wen's groveling pleas, Huiyuli remained unmoved. He watched the woman's terrified expression. He couldn't help but chuckle. So this is how people look when staring death in the face. Utterly panic-stricken, Zhou Wen bled out and died on the spot. After Zhou Wen's death, Huiyuli leaped from the 18th floor. News of Huiyuli's suicide reached me while I was picking wedding dresses with Wen Shuji. My fingers froze midair, a chill running down my spine. I forced a careless smile. Wen Shuji patted my shoulder without saying a word. Zhou Wen is dead. Huiyuli is dead too. I've avenged my daughter. It's all over now. That night, I visited my daughter at her gravesite, staring at her youthful face in the photo. It felt like she was standing right at our doorstep, smiling as she called out to me, Mommy. I reached out toward my daughter. Good girl Anin, let's go home with Mommy. After my contract with Wen Shuji expired, I went to England alone. There, nobody knew about my past. I followed the crowd, passing one crossroads after another, stop and go, warm light spills down, casting my shadow. I tapped the screen, gazing at my daughter's smiling face before tilting my head back. Thankfully, I still have all the time in the world. It's okay to reminisce. Life goes on beautifully. Story 2, in our past life. The class beauty got pregnant while fooling around with her delinquent boyfriend, when her pregnancy became impossible to hide. She came to my childhood sweetheart to clean up her mess. I begged him not to be a fool, but he wouldn't listen. Instead, he stood by her side and cursed me for being heartless. I cut all ties with him, then married into wealth after graduation, becoming a pampered socialite. He dropped out early to work grueling hours, raising another man's children day and night. At our 20-year reunion, he greeted me with silver hair and a heartbreaking smile. When I opened my eyes again, we'd both been reborn. Back to that moment when the class beauty came to him as her last resort. 1. Lin Ting. How have you been lately? I froze for a second, staring at the aged man blocking my path, his ill-fitting suit, nervous gestures, and hair nearly completely silvered. Though this was supposed to be our college reunion after over 2 decades, yet my college classmates and I are merely in our late 30s. We're all in the prime of life, thriving in our careers, and know how to take good care of ourselves. Scanning across the banquet hall, everyone radiated youthful energy and vitality. At the very least, everyone looked a good decade younger than their actual age. The sudden appearance of this white-haired old man made me hesitate for a moment before I nervously called out, Instructor Liu. Other than our former homeroom teacher, I couldn't imagine any other elderly man with white hair who'd show up here. The man froze at my words, clearly startled that I'd named his former position. It took him several seconds to recover before he murmured with trembling lips, That's not me. Not catching his words clearly, I responded with a smile, It's been ages since I last saw you. Are you still teaching at the school? The person beside me lowered their head further, pressing their lips together in silence. Just as I was puzzled, a gaunt woman suddenly emerged from the corner, yanking his hair while shrieking in a piercing voice, Chen Xiao, how nice. You haven't sent this month's living expenses yet, but you've got money for new clothes and attending fancy parties like this. Her outburst instantly drew everyone's attention in the room. As I finally saw the man's face clearly, I took 2 disbelieving steps backward. The reason was simple. The silver-haired, weathered man standing before me was none other than Chen Xiao, my childhood sweetheart. The Chen Xiao in my memory who always held his head high, looking down at me with that smirk asking, Can't even solve this problem, Lin Ting. Are you just naturally blessed with stupidity or what? the Qin Xiao who effortlessly aced every exam, propping his chin on his hand with a grin saying, "When Tsinghua and Peking University fight over me someday, I'll make them take you along too, deal." The Qin Xiao who'd been tall and handsome since childhood, carelessly tossing me stacks of Valentine's love letters to fold into paper airplanes. The Qin Xiao who remained invincible in my memories. Always standing behind me, effortlessly conquering everything, now, getting beaten by a woman skinnier than herself who was pressing her head down, he instinctively covered his head to dodge, but the moment our eyes met, he suddenly flew into a rage. Qin Xiao violently shoved Qin Xiaoxiao to the ground, then abruptly slapped her across the face. "Have you lost your damn mind, Qin Xiaoxiao? Go beg your real mother for money if you're that desperate." The sharp sound of a slap echoed loudly through the silent banquet hall. Qin Xiaoxiao stood frozen, clutching her stinging cheek in disbelief at Qin Xiao's strike. The next instant, she lunged at him with a snarl. "How dare you hit me, Qin Xiao? I'm your legal daughter, my name's in the Qin family register, you're obligated to provide for me. If you don't pay up now, I'll report you for rape." The two began grappling again, their shouts and curses growing louder. Soon someone stepped in to break up the commotion, forcibly separating them. I couldn't stand watching anymore and gave Qin Xiaoxiao 5,000 yuan. Qin Xiaoxiao's resentment instantly melted away as she stared at the money in her hand, beaming from ear to ear while showering the auntie with repeated thanks. Then she smoothed her auburn curls, spat in Qin Xiao's direction, and stormed off without another word. Qin Xiao slumped in his chair, arms hanging limply at his sides. His head remained bowed, heavy and unmovable. Too, I poured Qin Xiao a glass of water and offered it to him, but he didn't take it. "You must think I'm ridiculous," Qin Xiao said with a bitter smile, his voice barely above a whisper. I wasn't sure what he meant, whether he was referring to his current state or to Qin Xiaoxiao, who'd just had a physical altercation with him. After a long silence, I set down the glass of water and finally spoke, "But didn't you choose all this yourself?" Qin Xiao's body jerked violently before he buried his face in his hands, sobbing uncontrollably. Indeed, he couldn't blame anyone. This was the path Qin Xiao had chosen for himself. All their college classmates present knew about it, and each had tried to dissuade him to some extent, but back then, Qin Xiao seemed possessed, deaf to all advice, wholly consumed by his obsession with Li Jiwei. Li Jiwei transferred to our class during freshman year. Back then I was just a scrawny twig. While she already had curves in all the right places, naturally beautiful with a great figure, her warm smile and gentle demeanor quickly won over most guys in class. At 17 or 18, hormones were raging at their peak. The sudden arrival of a stunning beauty in class had all the boys buzzing with excitement. Only Qin Xiao remained unfazed, wearing an irritated expression when Li Jiwei came to ask questions. After just a couple follow-up questions, Qin Xiao clicked his tongue impatiently. "Such basic questions, stop wasting my time." His words cut Li Jiwei to the quick. She walked away with red-rimmed eyes, visibly crushed, clueless about teenage boys' awkwardness. I scolded him right then. "Why are you being so mean to her? What's easy for you might be hard for her. We're classmates. There's no need to be so harsh." I kept nagging in his ear, trying to get him to treat Li Jiwei better, completely missing how he was gripping his pen while staring at her retreating figure. Not hearing a word I said. Just as I was about to say more, Qin Xiao abruptly stood up and muttered flatly, "I'm stepping out." With that, he ignored me and sprinted off in the direction Li Jiwei had gone. They only returned one after another when the class bell finally rang. For some reason, Li Jiwei's face was flushed, while Qin Xiao's lip looked slightly swollen and even a bit split. I've always been a bit dense, completely oblivious to whatever was going on between Li Jiwei and Qin Xiao. To me, Qin Xiao is my childhood friend and the top student in class, while Li Jiwei is the gentle and kind class beauty. They seem to have a rather strained relationship. Li Jiwei often comes to Qin Xiao for help, but he always ends up making her cry, then reluctantly apologizes with a cold expression. In the second semester of freshman year, a girl with rainbow-colored hair stormed into our classroom, grabbed Li Jiwei by the hair, and slapped her twice across the face. "You home-wrecking bitch, how dare you seduce my man?" Qin Xiao rushed over immediately, shoved the girl away, retaliated with 2 sharp slaps of his own, and shielded Li Jiwei behind him. "Psycho," Qin Xiao growled through clenched teeth, glaring at the girl. If Li Jiwei hadn't held him back, he probably would have gone after her to throw punches. Without wasting a word, the girl yanked out a thick stack of papers from her bag and scattered them in the air while shrieking, "This slut slept with my boyfriend and got pregnant. Everyone, come see." the whole thing happened so suddenly that the entire class was left stunned. A flurry of A4 papers fluttered down past my head. Instinctively catching one, a single glance made me recoil in horror. Each sheet was plastered with explicit kissing photos of Li Jiwei and some blonde punk. Among them was a chat screenshot showing an ultrasound report Li Jiwei had sent. She anxiously asked the person across from her what to do, but received no response. 3. The news of Li Jiwei's pregnancy eventually blew up. No one expected this seemingly delicate, gentle and beautiful girl to have been secretly involved with local troublemakers outside school. To make matters worse, she was the other woman, crossing every line imaginable. She unexpectedly got pregnant, only to have the guy's official girlfriend show up and beat her up. Li Jiwei kept her head down and wept bitterly as the teacher led her away, her sobs full of anguish and resentment. Qin Xiao couldn't tear his eyes away from her, barely restraining the urge to rush forward. I folded the A4 paper beside me, refusing to look at what was printed on it any longer. The matter remains unsettled, regardless of whether Li Jiwei is innocent. Her private photos shouldn't be circulating wildly. I was about to gather all the A4 papers for disposal when I spotted one on Qin Xiao's desk. Just as I reached for it, he suddenly slapped my hand hard. "Qin Xiao, why'd you hit me? That really hurt." I gasped in pain and looked up into Qin Xiao's bloodshot eyes. "Lin Ting, could you stop being such a busybody?" Qin Xiao shouted at me, unable to contain his anger. "You always have to stick your nose into everything and spread gossip. Li Jiwei is in this state, and you don't even have an ounce of sympathy." I stood frozen in place, momentarily stunned by his outburst. The next second, he violently hurled the A4 papers and all the books on the desk at me, yelling furiously as he threw them. "You want to look? Here, take a good look. Look all you want." Caught off guard, a pile of books hit me square in the face. Then came the pens Qin Xiao had placed on the desk. One of them came flying straight at my eye. As I covered my eye and screamed, I heard classmates scolding Qin Xiao, demanding an apology. He spat viciously and snapped, "Lin Ting deserved it. That nosy bitch had it coming. Disgusting. Jiwei is obviously framed. These are all photoshopped images, yet Lin Ting insists on seeing them. Just can't resist kicking someone when they're down. How despicable." Rushed to the hospital with my hands covering my eyes. I could still hear Qin Xiao's curses ringing in my ears as I left, writhing in too much pain to respond. I could only make out Qin Xiao's grim face through my blurred vision. At that moment, I couldn't comprehend why I was subjected to such torment. It felt like a knife twisting in my heart to be treated this way by Qin Xiao. 4. I temporarily lost my eyesight for a period of time. Qin Xiao's parents knelt to apologize on his behalf, covered all medical expenses with sincere remorse, and even dragged him over to give him a thorough scolding. After all, our families had been close for many years, so in the end we chose to forgive and let the matter rest. When I returned to the classroom to continue studying, I could only wear an eye patch and strain to see the blackboard with my other eye. Qin Xiao remained stony-faced, offering neither an apology nor another word to me. I stayed silent too, never speaking to him again. Ironically, since we lived close by, that was the day I saw Li Jiwei standing at Qin Xiao's doorstep with her noticeably rounded belly. Qin Xiao held her tightly, swearing with deliberate emphasis, "Jiwei, don't be afraid, I'll stand by you. If you won't take responsibility, then I'll be your support. I'll provide for you. I'll provide for your baby." Li Jiwei wept pitifully, burying her face in Qin Xiao's chest as she sobbed. "You're all I have now." Qin Xiao clung to her, about to kiss the top of her head, when he suddenly spotted me standing in the corner holding the keys. His face instantly drained of color. I stared at them dumbfounded. "You're going to support Li Jiwei?" "Qin Xiao, don't be ridiculous. They're barely adults themselves with no means to earn a living. How are they supposed to support themselves and 2 kids? Why not terminate this unborn child?" Before I could finish, Qin Xiao's eyes turned bloodshot as he roared at me, "Shut up, Lin Ting. Have you no humanity left? That's a living being." Qin Xiao cursed loudly, his every word dripping with defense for Li Jiwei. I opened my mouth but said nothing, slipping through the door into my house just as Qin Xiao was gearing up for another rant. After nearly 2 decades of growing up together, I realized I still couldn't understand Qin Xiao. His thought process completely baffled me. The guy's clearly unhinged, like certifiably insane. I didn't dare to advise him further, especially since I could only see clearly with one eye left. After that day, Qin Xiao skipped school altogether to work at a chain store, earning money to buy nutritional supplements for Li Jiwei. He even stole money from home to rent an apartment for Li Jiwei. The two lived like carefree immortals in that rented apartment. Until Chen Xiao started resenting how classes took up too much time, preventing him from being with Li Jiwei constantly, so he secretly dropped out behind his parents' backs, only for his teacher to report it directly to his family. Chen Xiao was dragged back home by his parents. During that period, I'd often hear crashing sounds of cups shattering next door, followed by Old Man Chen's roars and Madame Chen's sobs. From initial stubborn defiance, Chen Xiao gradually gave in until he finally returned to school under his parents' watchful eyes. Everyone thought he was getting his life back on track, but no one expected Chen Xiao to steal the family's bankbook and run away with Li Jiwei, who had just given birth. While everyone else was enjoying their college life to the fullest, Chen Xiao became the father of a newborn. Later, Chen Xiao moved to another city and we lost touch completely. Time passed, I graduated, got married, and Chen Xiao faded from my memory entirely. Never did I expect we'd meet again 20 years later at a class reunion. Nearing 40 now, Chen Xiao had lost both the dashing confidence of his youth and his handsome boyish features. At this moment, he was a gaunt, weather-beaten middle-aged man. Chen Xiao couldn't even bring himself to meet my gaze. Shrinking back, he murmured in a hoarse voice, "Lin Ting, I regret it." 5. Chen Xiao seemed to have so much he wanted to tell me. But before long, some close friends from university came looking for me. Sorry, I gave him a faint smile and walked toward the group of college classmates standing nearby. Chen Xiao instinctively reached out to stop me but missed, left watching helplessly as I walked away. As soon as I approached them, someone grabbed my hand and whispered anxiously, "Are you hurt? After how he treated you in college, you're still being civil to him." God, I'd have run for the hills. "Stop worrying about him. Do you want to lose your eyesight or something?" They all chimed in while pulling me away. I just smiled and went along with it. That entire evening, Chen Xiao sat alone in the corner, watching the party crowd with quiet desolation. Though they were all classmates, not a single person initiated conversation with him. They weren't carefree 20-somethings anymore. These reunions had become little more than networking events. Why would anyone pass up golden opportunities like me to socialize with that down-and-out wreck Chen Xiao? So until the party ended, no one went to talk to Chen Xiao, yet he stayed resilient, lingering until the crowd thinned out before limping toward me. I was waiting for a ride when Chen Xiao cautiously approached and asked, "How have you been lately?" This time, I caught his question clearly and countered with a smile. "Do I look like I'm not doing well?" "That's not a real smile." Chen Xiao sighed. "I can tell." The smile faded from my face as distant headlights flickered through the darkness. "My ride's here. I should get going," I said politely. Then in an instant, the car came speeding straight toward me. In the blink of an eye, it charged right at me, leaving me frozen in terror. Just before slipping into unconsciousness, I saw Chen Xiao limping desperately toward me. Then suddenly, my eyes flew open to meet the blazing sun overhead. I heard muffled sobs and a fragile whisper, "Chen Xiao, you're all I have left." My head snapped toward the sound, where I saw young Chen Xiao with his arm around Li Jiwei. When our eyes met, his instantly lit up. Then Chen Xiao shoved Li Jiwei aside and strode toward me, pulling me into a tight embrace as he choked out, "You came back too, didn't you? Thank heavens for giving me a second chance." I blinked, still processing, when Chen Xiao's inner voice suddenly echoed in my mind. "Damn those bitches Lin Ting and Li Jiwei, I swear I'll make them pay." "No, make that 3. Don't fucking think I'll spare you just because you're in her womb." I froze momentarily, double-checking that I could indeed hear Chen Xiao's inner voice. Suppressing my turmoil, I looked up at him with practiced composure. Just then, Chen Xiao trembled as his piercing gaze locked onto me. "Lin Ting, you can hear it too, can't you?" I frowned at him before coldly brushing his hand away, my voice icy. "Chen Xiao, stop this madness. Whatever's between you and Li Jiwei is none of my business." With that, I flung the door open, rushed inside, and leaned against it gasping for breath. Standing before the mirror, I splashed water on my face and gazed at my slender, youthful reflection with a dazed disbelief. Chen Xiao and I had actually been reborn back in our college days. Had I really escaped that bastard's clutches? I tossed and turned all night, unable to find sleep. My mind was in complete turmoil, with joy and disbelief tangled together, making me feel like I was trapped in some wonderful dream. It wasn't until the next morning when I woke up with bedhead and saw my parents at the breakfast table that reality finally sank in. With reddened eyes, I threw myself into my mother's arms and cried, "Mom, I've missed you so much. What's gotten into you this early in the morning, child?" My mother held me tight, showering me with affection as I fought back tears, burying my face in her embrace and refusing to let go. Thank goodness my parents are still here. and I haven't been completely destroyed by that person, this lifetime. I'll protect them with all my heart and live well. 6. In my past life, my parents died in a car accident. The drunk driver who caused the crash saw my parents lying in a pool of blood. He knew full well my parents were still breathing, yet stood idly by the car scrolling through his phone before casually calling the police. He only called the police, not even dialing 120 for emergency medical help. He watched my parents take their last breaths right before his eyes as if they were mere objects of no consequence. The coroner later told me my parents could have been saved. If the ambulance had arrived with the police car, both of them could have been saved. I was so furious I nearly lost my mind. I wanted revenge and was ready to hire a lawyer to sue him, but then, looking at my tear-streaked face, the other person suddenly grasped my hand. That person's enigmatic half-smile flashed through my mind again for no reason. I quickly shook my head, trying to rid myself of that disgusting face. I've been reborn, my parents are still here, and I won't have the slightest connection with that person ever again. I'd mentally prepared myself, but the moment I opened the door, there was Chen Xiao waiting at my doorstep. My brows instantly furrowed as I pressed my lips together, taking 2 steps back to avoid him. But Chen Xiao reached out to stop me, lowering his eyelids as he asked, "Lin Ting, where are you off to?" "School," I said flatly. "It's Sunday, time to head back to campus. Where else would I be going?" Chen Xiao's face suddenly broke into a wide grin at my words. "Makes sense," he said, "let me give you a ride." But what I was really thinking was, looks like Lin Ting didn't actually get reborn. Still the same idiot as always. If you got a second chance at life, who'd waste it on stupid school classes? Making money's the priority. I quietly stepped away from him and called toward the house. "Dad." My father came rushing over with my lunchbox, his face darkening when he saw Chen Xiao. Before my dad could even speak, Chen Xiao froze, muttered a hasty "hello uncle" and scurried away like a scared rat. Seems he's been reborn, but still remembers how my dad pounded his head bloody with punch after punch when he messed up my eyes, never letting up even when his skull was dripping red. "Listen Ting Ting, stay the hell away from that bastard if you see him. The guy's got screws loose." My dad kept drilling it into my ear. I nodded obediently like the perfect daughter, but he still couldn't shake his worry. Ever since my dad caught wind of Chen Xiao's intentions to pester me, he insisted on personally driving me to and from school every week. He even paid out of pocket to install surveillance cameras in our classroom, claiming it was just a precaution. But Dad was worrying over nothing. Chen Xiao not only stopped bothering me, he even stopped attending classes altogether. He stole his family's savings passbook and used the money to fly to Hangzhou. Mrs. Chen came to my house sobbing uncontrollably. He said he wanted to invest all our money in some Mayun venture. When his father refused, he just took the money and ran away. I think he's completely lost his mind. "Listen, you and Chen Xiao were always so close. Could you please talk some sense into him for me? I'm begging you." Somehow during this conversation, Mrs. Chen tried to kneel before me again, but my mother stopped her with a stern expression. "Sister, how can you say such things? Look at my daughter's eyes, she's only got one good one left. Have some mercy on our family, or should I kneel before you too?" Just as I was about to speak, Mom shot me a look that sent me straight to my room. A sudden warmth filled my chest and my nose tingled with emotion. How wonderful to be reborn with both parents still here. I'm no longer that Lin Ting who had to grow up overnight and shoulder everything alone after losing both parents. After being away for over half a month, Chen Xiao returned home one night, knocking on his own door covered in travel dust. My dad told me he was banging on the door so loudly it woke up the entire neighborhood. Everyone peeked out just in time to see old Chen trembling with rage, his hand raised to slap Xiao across the face, when suddenly the boy yanked open his backpack, revealing stacks of crisp red bills inside. Mr. Chen froze on the spot. Mrs. Chen, quicker to react, immediately dragged everyone inside and slammed the door shut tight. He actually got the money. I couldn't help feeling surprised. I have no idea how much Chen Xiao's family is worth, but at this point Alibaba's already gearing up for its IPO. What would they want with Chen's petty cash? Just as I was puzzling over it, Chen Xiao swaggered up to me with a smug grin. Even with his sun-darkened skin, nothing could dim the youthful radiance bursting from this 20-something guy. With a triumphant look, he pulled a wad of bills from his pocket and shoved them into my hand. "Lin Ting," he declared, "I've struck gold in business. Be with me. I'll treat you right." Chen Xiao's so-called business was just flipping goods in Hangzhou using his parents' savings. With memories from his past life, He rode the wave of economic reform and made quick money in Hangzhou, glancing at the cash he'd shoved into my hand. I pushed it back and asked with a smile, "What about Li Jiwei?" Qin Shao's face darkened momentarily before he forced another smile. "Cut the crap, Lin Ting. I'm not some idiot who'd raise another man's wife and kids." I chuckled. Qin Shao sure had a silver tongue, but I knew better. He'd long rented an apartment for Li Jiwei, pampering her like some kept woman. Not that Qin Shao wanted history to repeat itself. His inner voice screamed in my head, "Damn it, once that bitch Li Jiwei gives birth, I'll ditch them both and let them rot in hell. I'll never let those who ruined my past life get away with it." I sidestepped Qin Shao and said indifferently, "This has nothing to do with me, Qin Shao. I want nothing to do with you either. Stay the hell away from me from now on. You don't want to go to school. Well, I still do." I gave Qin Shao a long look before walking away. Qin Shao was left standing there clutching the money, his expression dark. 7. I'd long since forgotten every bit of my college education. Thankfully there's still a year left. To keep up with everyone else, I crammed like crazy by cutting into my sleep time. I studied around the clock, while Qin Shao disappeared again with the money for who knows how long. When he finally reappeared, I spotted a familiar face standing beside him. Qin Shao couldn't hide his smugness as he introduced the tall, aloof young man next to him. "Lin Ting, come meet my protege, this is Ji Shiming. You wouldn't know him, he's the heir to our city's wealthiest family, currently working under me." My body stiffened slightly as I suppressed a full-body tremor. Keeping my head bowed in feigned docility, Ji Shiming lazily lifted his eyelids, raking his gaze over me. His eyes briefly skimmed past the medical eye patch covering my eye before offering a belated greeting. Qin Shao proudly recounted how his sharp business acumen uncovered the opportunity, how he hit it off with Ji Shiming's father to secure the investment, and how he effortlessly convinced them to send Ji Shiming over as his right-hand man. As Qin Shao spoke, Ji Shiming stood by with a warm, crinkle-eyed smile radiating approachability. Whenever Qin Shao reached particularly animated moments, Ji Shiming would chuckle and obligingly applaud. Their seamless back and forth made them look like brothers from another mother. Qin Shao remained oblivious, mistaking Ji Shiming's admiration as genuine, his face brimming with smug satisfaction. But I saw through it clearly. That expression of Ji Shiming's was unmistakably brewing mischief, ready to drag Qin Shao into the mud at any moment. Ji Shiming had many twisted hobbies, but the cruelest was his penchant for lifting people sky-high only to hurl them down mercilessly, then watching their humiliation and downfall from above. In my past life, I never understood his methods. Yet Ji Shiming would always flash me that radiant smile. "Honey, don't you find it absolutely hilarious watching those idiots plummet from heaven to hell in an instant? It's clearly funny, darling. Why aren't you laughing?" The memory of that man with the hollow smile gradually merged with Ji Shiming before me, sending an involuntary shiver down my spine. Qin Shao stepped aside to take a call while Ji Shiming's gaze lingered on me, his eyebrows arching in silent inquiry. Ji Shiming suddenly spoke up behind me, "So you're his little girlfriend too, what?" I turned with a frown, warning him coldly, "You can eat whatever you want, but watch your words." This boy before me wasn't yet the cruel man who could smile while sending people to their deaths years later. I took a deep breath, forcing down the panic in my mind and struggling to maintain composure. "Oh, my bad." Ji Shiming forced a smile. "I thought you were Qin Shao's girlfriend too, just like that pregnant girl, but Qin Shao really likes you." The guy's loaded, why not just say yes? Ji Shiming stepped closer. The 18-year-old towered over me at over 6 feet tall, his presence like an immovable wall. Dealing with Ji Shiming exhausted me, even more than dealing with Qin Shao did. "So you're saying with all the men in this world, Qin Shao is my only option? If you've got nothing better to do, maybe get your head examined." I stepped past him coldly, "And just so we're clear, women don't cease to exist without men." I trudged homeward, absolutely done with Ji Shiming's nonsense, so I completely missed Ji Shiming's intrigued gaze burning into my back. Even as I rushed through the front door, I could still hear Ji Shiming and Qin Shao's conversation drifting from outside. Ji Shiming was asking Qin Shao, "By the way, what was that girl's name again?" "Lin Ting." Qin Shao repeated nonchalantly, "Didn't I just introduce you to?" "Oh, didn't catch that just now. She's alright looking, but needs to fill out more. Right now she's just a beanpole." "Really, didn't notice that, but she's actually quite interesting." Their voices faded into the distance as I clenched my fists by the door. "Looks like we'll need to move up the moving schedule." 8. After being reborn, I didn't share Qin Shao's grand ambitions. He wanted piles of money aiming to climb the social ladder using memories from his past life. All I want is to help my parents avoid that accident, stay away from Chen Xiao, and keep my distance from that lunatic Ji Shiming. I'd planned to move out after freshman year, but Ji Shiming's sudden appearance left me deeply unsettled. That unease grew tenfold when Li Jiwei, bruised head to toe and heavily pregnant, clambered through my balcony into the bedroom with visible difficulty, barely catching her breath after the ordeal. She froze mid-pant upon meeting my gaze, a choked sob escaped as she clamped a hand over her mouth, tears spilling instantly. "Please," she begged through trembling lips, "don't tell Chen Xiao, don't tell anyone, I'll just stay tonight, I swear." Her tearful eyes held desperate pleading. "I can't take it anymore, he beats me every single day, and no matter how hard I try, I just can't escape." A few months ago, Chen Xiao set Li Jiwei up in an outside residence. That period was actually somewhat peaceful for her, but as Li Jiwei's pregnancy became more visible and Chen Xiao's financial situation improved, his contempt grew. It started with slaps, then escalated to beating her with clothes hangers, leaving her body covered in bruises. Trapped with no way out, Li Jiwei finally seized her chance to escape when Chen Xiao took her back to his parents' house, intending to have them keep watch over her. Li Jiwei took sips of the water I handed her while recounting the tragic events she'd endured during this period. My frown deepened as I listened, watching the still sobbing Li Jiwei before asking, "So what's your plan now? Have you thought about it?" Li Jiwei seemed flustered, biting her lip before murmuring, "I just want to get away, maybe go home." No, I can't go back like this. My parents would literally kill me if they saw me in this state." Li Jiwei nervously stroked her increasingly rounded belly, panic written across her face. "I don't know what to do anymore." Li Jiwei burst into tears again, unable to hold back. Her crying was giving me a headache, but I couldn't just stand by while Chen Xiao kept abusing her day after day. "Let me give you some advice, see if this works for you. First, go to the police and report Chen Xiao for both imprisoning and abusing you. Get him locked up, and he won't bother you again. That way you'll be completely safe. Then, go home and apologize to your parents. Since it's still early, terminate the pregnancy quickly. After recovering for a while, you can return to school." This is the best solution for Li Jiwei's current situation. This is unacceptable. Li Jiwei's eyes widened as she protectively cradled her belly, her face full of disapproval. "The child is innocent. How could I possibly sacrifice my own baby for my sake? I could never do that." I felt veins bulging on my forehead but still patiently explained the pros and cons to her once more, yet Li Jiwei remained unmoved, shielding her stomach while shaking her head repeatedly. She even took a few cautious steps backward, eyeing me warily as if fearing I might lay hands on her precious unborn child. You can't reason with someone hellbent on destruction. 9. Li Jiwei had made up her mind, so I stopped pressing the issue. I quickly cleared a space in the room for Li Jiwei to rest. "You're pregnant, let's discuss this tomorrow." Li Jiwei was being surprisingly well behaved, nodding repeatedly with gratitude. She tossed and turned on the makeshift cot I'd set up, creating constant rustling sounds. Her movements made it hard to fall asleep, but I forced my eyes shut anyway. Half asleep much later, I faintly heard Li Jiwei murmur, "Lin Ting, you're actually quite decent. I had no choice, don't blame me. The baby and I desperately need the money." Lying on my side, I slowly opened my eyes and heard Li Jiwei speaking to someone on the phone. "She's asleep, get your people over here now." I'm already in position. The person on the other end seemed to ask something, to which Li snapped impatiently, "Yes, he promised us 200 grand, already gave me 50 up front. Once you film Lin Ting's video, we'll get the rest." "Alright, hurry over to the address I gave you, I'll come open the door." Li Jiwei hung up the phone in a huff, then froze mid-motion when her eyes suddenly met mine. "Why, you're awake." Her voice trembled slightly before she steadied it, offering me a glass of water while avoiding eye contact. "Would you like some water?" "Sure." I met Li Jiwei's gaze and smiled. The tension instantly melted from Li Jiwei's face as she cheerfully brought me a glass of water. I sat up, watching her approach with an amused smile. The moment Li Jiwei reached my bedside, I suddenly snatched her phone from her hands. Panic flashed across her face as she lunged to grab it back. "Lin Ting, what are you doing? That's my phone." Without a word, I slapped Li Jiwei hard across the face. "You heard it, didn't you?" Li Jiwei clutched her stinging cheek, glaring at me with venom. "Loud and clear," I said calmly, yanking her hair to force face recognition on her phone. As I scrolled through her chat history with another man, my heart turned to ice, until I suddenly burst into laughter. After I took you in out of kindness, you took Chen Xiao's money and had your friends come after me, the farmer and the viper. Huh, I smirked at Li Jiwei who was still lunging for my phone, then slapped him again with the back of my hand. In both this life and the last, I'd genuinely wished for Li Jiwei to wake up and get his act together, yet it seems neither in this life nor the last has Li Jiwei ever changed his ways. She's nothing but a pretty face, brainless, wicked, and all too willing to be Chen Xiao's lackey. Any sympathy I had for her vanished as I shoved the clawing, phone-snatching Li Jiwei to the ground. Li Jiwei panicked, clutching her stomach and screaming until I twisted her arms behind her back, bound them with my jacket, then gagged her with duct tape. By the time I finished, my parents had heard the commotion and came looking for me, armed with whatever they'd grabbed. My mother was shocked when she saw Li Jiwei, heavily pregnant, slumped on the floor, and tightly bound by me. Good heavens, tell me, why is this pregnant woman in your room? Are you alright? I passed Li Jiwei's phone around for both of them to examine. After reading the messages, my parents immediately started cursing. I briefly explained what had happened to them. The more my mom heard, the angrier she got. She stormed over, grabbed Li Jiwei by the collar, and started yelling at her. My daughter took you in out of kindness, and this is how you repay her, with such disgusting intentions. How could you be so vile? What kind of upbringing did your parents even give you? My mom showed restraint, unlike me, who slapped her twice right away. Li Jiwei shook her head at my mom while crying, putting on an innocent act. If it weren't for the voice messages she'd sent to that blonde-haired thug still in her phone, my mom might have actually fallen for it. How many of you are coming? My dad asked the crucial question. Li Jiwei played dumb at this point, just widening her eyes in silent tears while withholding all critical information. I watched her performance coldly, then pointed at the surveillance camera on the balcony facing my bedroom when she still refused to speak. This camera has recorded your every move and word. None of you are getting away with this. You've got two choices now. Either go down this dark path to the end, or turn yourself in and expose them. No way, I'm pregnant. That person said nothing would happen to me. Li Jiwei's blurted words instantly put me on alert. When it came to Chen Xiao, she always addressed him by his full name. That sudden mention of that person conjured Ji Shiming's face in my mind. Half an hour later, Li Jiwei's thug boyfriend showed up with 5 lackeys trying to pick our front door lock. My dad was livid and wanted to charge out with a bat to drive off those bastards, but I stopped him. I ushered my parents into the bedroom, silenced Li Jiwei's phone, locked the door securely, then called the police. Those idiots were utterly incompetent. After failing to pick the lock for 30 minutes, they resorted to smashing it. As they smashed through the door and barged into my home, the arriving cops had them surrounded in no time. In his panic, Li Jiwei's thug boyfriend stabbed an arresting officer in the gut. I whispered in Li Jiwei's ear, home invasion plus assaulting an officer. Do you really think your baby will ever get to meet its father after you give birth? Li Jiwei turned deathly pale and collapsed to the floor. I said no more, watching as she and those thugs were hauled into the police car. The commotion at our place tonight was so loud that nosy neighbors were already peering toward our house from their doorways. Only the Chen family next door remained completely silent. It wasn't until the next day that Chen Xiao came rushing over as if just hearing the news. Grabbing me, about to take out the trash, in a tight hug. Lin Ting, thank God you're okay. Chen Xiao's ecstatic voice rang in my ears, yet his furious curses echoed in my mind. Unbelievable. Can't even handle such a simple task. Li Jiwei is utterly useless. What a waste of the 50 grand I gave her. Now this whole mess has blown up, making it damn hard for me to clean up. I lowered my eyelids as Chen Xiao continued. I was worried sick about you. You're alright, right? God knows what that idiot Li Jiwei was thinking. I'm fine, I said casually, brushing past Chen Xiao. But according to Li Jiwei, they were acting on someone's orders. The moment I finished speaking, Chen Xiao beside me froze abruptly, his whole demeanor betraying instinctive panic. No way, Chen Xiao asked with an unnatural expression, his tone oddly strained as if fishing for more information. No idea. When that thug was being taken away. Li Jiwei told the police he seemed willing to turn himself in. I put on a thoughtful expression, probably trying to confess for a reduced sentence. Chen Xiao's face darkened instantly, perhaps imagining the consequences of being implicated. He abandoned his lovelorn act with me, exchanging only a few more words before bolting out the door. He wanted to seek Ji Shiming's help, but Ji wouldn't lift a finger for him, though the idea originated from Ji Shiming. He wasn't involved in any of the actual execution. I can just picture Ji Shiming's reaction. Instead of helping the frantic Chen Xiao, He'd gleefully jump into the fray to stir up more trouble, then laugh his head off watching Chen's distress. But Chen Xiao remains completely unaware of all this, and I won't give him the slightest hint. 11. The home invasion at my place caused quite a stir in our local community. Those thugs were carrying knives and even assaulted police officers. If I hadn't called the police in time, there's no telling what could have happened next. As the situation escalated, Li Jiwei gritted her teeth and revealed Chen Xiao as the mastermind behind it all. The police showed up at the Chen residence shortly after Chen Xiao had gone to find Ji Ximing. The police spent the entire afternoon at the Chen residence, but Chen Xiao never showed up. It seemed he'd gotten wind of something. The man vanished without a trace, like he'd evaporated into thin air. Chen Xiao's parents were placed under heavy surveillance. Soon the whole neighborhood knew he was connected to the thugs who broke into my home, sparking widespread panic. Even the vegetable vendor who usually chatted with Mrs. Chen refused to sell to her. But none of this really concerned me. Police officers. If I hadn't called the police in time, there's no telling what could have happened next. As the situation escalated, Li Jiwei gritted her teeth and revealed Chen Xiao as the mastermind behind it all. The police showed up at the Chen residence shortly after Chen Xiao had gone to find Ji Ximing. The police spent the entire afternoon at the Chen residence, but Chen Xiao never showed up. It seemed he'd gotten wind of something. The man vanished without a trace, like he'd evaporated into thin air. Chen Xiao's parents were placed under heavy surveillance. Soon the whole neighborhood knew he was connected to the thugs who broke into my home, sparking widespread panic. Even the vegetable vendor who usually chatted with Mrs. Chen refused to sell to her. But none of this really concerned me. Our family was about to move anyway. After that night's incident, my parents immediately put my moving proposal on the fast track. My dad found a new place in record time and was ready to relocate us. As I was leaving, I ran into Mrs. Chen downstairs. The once plump Mrs. Chen had shockingly lost over 10 pounds in a short time, looking a decade older. "Listen," Mrs. Chen called out to stop me. I halted and stood before the woman who had once treated me so kindly. Mrs. Chen seemed to have much to say. Her lips quivered as she opened and closed her mouth several times, but in the end, she only managed, "Our Chen Xiao has wronged you." Without responding, I walked past her and headed downstairs. At the stairwell, I instinctively turned back and saw Mrs. Chen hunched over, carefully making her way upstairs. Chen Xiao's transformation this year turned their joy into profound grief. The elderly couple lived in constant fear for Chen Xiao at home. While he vanished without a trace with their money, I moved away, completely severing ties with Chen Xiao and all that messy business. Day after day, I mechanically attended classes, waiting for the college entrance exams to arrive. Little did I know that one afternoon after school, I'd be dragged into a car, blindfolded, and bound hand and foot, completely immobilized. I sat quietly in the back seat, making no attempt to struggle or resist, unnaturally docile. Then a low, muffled chuckle reached my ears. The man sitting behind me leaned in and asked, "Why aren't you fighting back?" That familiar voice, that familiar scent, I knew him so well I could predict his next words. "It's no fun if you don't struggle." Ji Ximing's slightly regretful voice overlapped with the one in my imagination. The next instant, light flooded my vision as I opened my eyes to see Ji Ximing beside me. "You knew it was me all along?" Ji Ximing asked with a squinting smile. Twirling a strand of my hair that had fallen over my shoulder, I remained passive under Ji Ximing's wandering hands, neither resisting nor speaking, until he brought me to his family's suburban villa. There in the basement, my pupils contracted at the sight of Chen Xiao convulsing on the floor. "Just a little more, please, just a little more." Chen Xiao crawled on the ground, desperately reaching for Ji Ximing's pant leg, only to be kicked away. "What did you do to him?" These were the first words I spoke after Ji Ximing had dragged me here. Ji Ximing suddenly flashed a wide grin and revealed what was behind him. "Honey, I've just perfected something special. Care to give it a try?" I calmly raised my eyes to meet Ji Ximing's frenzied gaze. 12. When did you get back? I distinctly remembered how Ji Ximing still carried a boyish innocence during our last meeting, far less unhinged than his previous incarnation. The current Ji Ximing was identical to his past self in every way, except for the lingering softness of youth in his unformed features, that neurotic tone of his, the erratic behavior, and his perpetually unhinged mental state. I knew it all too well, so well that meeting him again sent involuntary shivers down my spine. Yet Ji Ximing either didn't notice my discomfort, or worse, my fear seemed to delight him. "When this idiot came whining to me about failing to have you roughed up, then had the nerve to beg for help covering his tracks. Ji Shiming kicked Chen Xiao again, snarling at me. Do you have any idea how furious I am? Why, how could you ever have been close with this piece of trash? He deserves to die. So when he came crawling for help, I agreed immediately. As long as he becomes my lab rat, I'll clear his record and deal with those street thugs at the precinct. Ji Shiming grinned at me. One glance at Chen Xiao convulsing on the floor told me Ji Shiming had broken his promise. Only Chen Xiao, arrogant as a fool, had charged headlong into Ji Shiming's trap and ended up like this. Pitying him, a pair of hands suddenly clamped around my throat. Ji Shiming's eyes turned vicious as his grip tightened, cutting off my air. Ji Shiming is a complete madman. He only hears what he wants to hear and sees what he wants to see. In my past life, the slightest defiance would earn me relentless torment. This time is different. I'm no longer the caged canary under Ji Shiming's control, nor am I alone anymore. Gripping the lunch bag tightly, I swung it straight at Ji Shiming's head with all my might. With a sharp smack, Ji Shiming staggered back several steps, caught completely off guard by my strike. Clutching his bleeding head, he looked at me not with anger, but with delight and approval. Ting Ting, you're amazing. Ji Shiming grinned widely at me. You're way more fun now than when you're grown up, so tiny, yet packing quite a punch. Keep your madness to yourself. I coughed twice, catching my breath before swiftly pulling out the stun gun I'd prepared from my bag. Ji Shiming, this isn't our past life. We have no connection now. Let me go. No connection. Ji Shiming advanced step by step, his gaze burning into my body. What do you think about making things irreversible? Listen, give me a child. Last lifetime you couldn't bear me a daughter. This time, you will. Agreed. My body tensed as I watched Ji Shiming approach step by step. The moment he lunged at me, I jammed the stun gun straight into his abdomen. Useless. Ji Shiming convulsed violently yet showed no sign of collapsing, instead flashing me a grotesquely wide grin. Stop struggling. You've been mine from the very beginning. There's no escape from my grasp. Staggering sideways, Ji Shiming reached out and triggered the alarm. I clearly heard footsteps running across the villa's upper floor. Ji Shiming's bodyguards were rushing toward the basement. He intended to imprison me just like Chen Xiao, without anyone noticing. You lunatic. I spat through gritted teeth as the arriving guards bound my limbs and forced me before Ji Shiming. Having recovered from the electric shock, Ji Shiming snatched the stun baton from me with a grin, cranked it to maximum voltage, and drove it viciously into my side, before passing out. I only heard him say coolly, listen now, you've grown too wild, naughty kittens must be punished. Struggling weakly, I spat in his face before darkness consumed me completely. 13. When I opened my eyes again, pure whiteness filled my vision. Lying on the hospital bed, my head felt foggy and disoriented, like walking on cotton wool. It wasn't until I saw my parents rushing in frantically that I grasped a sliver of reality. Did they catch him? Were my first words upon waking. My mother kept nodding at me, her eyes never leaving mine. At this moment, my heart that had been weighed down with fear for days finally settled. When Chen Xiao went missing, I immediately suspected Ji Shiming was behind it. Ji Shiming's mind doesn't operate on normal logic. To protect myself from him, I carry at least 3 trackers whenever I go out and check in with my mom hourly. I've warned my parents to call the police at the first sign of anything unusual happening to me. After Ji Shiming forced me into the car, I kept restraining myself, staying calm while waiting for rescue. Just as Ji was about to assault me, my parents and the police broke in and got me out. I was physically unharmed, but Chen Xiao lost every penny he'd scraped together and got hooked on drugs, completely ruined, with ironclad evidence of Chen Xiao orchestrating Li Jiwei's home invasion robbery. He was immediately taken in for interrogation, as they dragged Chen Xiao away. He kept struggling and screaming through his sobs. This can't be happening. I was supposed to get a second chance. I was meant to be a winner in life. Not this. There must be some mistake. Rumor has it Chen's parents turned gray overnight, running around trying to pull strings, even considering approaching our family for a letter of forgiveness. When Mom told me this, she glanced at me cautiously, as if afraid I might soften my stance. Don't worry, Mom, I'm not an idiot, I said with a chuckle, popping a piece of orange into my mouth. I'm not naive enough to forgive someone who's actively trying to harm me. Chen Xiao's crimes were heinous and hard to deny, yet he stubbornly dragged Ji Shiming into it. He insisted that everything he did was instigated by Ji Shiming. Ji Shiming remained unfazed. His wealthy, influential family had hired top-tier lawyers, but none of it, the home invasions, the kidnappings, could compare to the sheer gravity of what Ji Shiming was producing in that tiny basement workshop. In his previous life, Ji Shiming only began researching these things after he grew up. Who would have thought that after being reborn, he'd get a head start and secure 15 years worth of work right off the bat? They met again in court, where Chen Xiao was desperately trying to shift blame, pointing at Ji Shiming and ranting. He orchestrated everything, he's the mastermind. And he stole my 500 grand, may he rot in hell. Ji Shiming gave an indifferent yawn without making a sound, simply letting his lawyer handle the response. The Ji family's lawyer attempted to use Ji Shiming's alleged mental instability as a legal defense. Ji Shiming's gaze swept across the room before settling on me, offering a faint smile with a raised eyebrow, the picture of nonchalance. Just as I was puzzling over the situation, a gaunt woman emerged from the corner, yanking his hair while shrieking in a piercing voice. The trial dragged on for nearly 2 months before authorities officially diagnosed Ji Shiming with schizophrenia, reducing his original 15-year sentence to a mere 18-month probation. The entire courtroom wore grim expressions, except for him, who smugly let out a triumphant whistle. My face darkened as I watched Ji Shiming saunter toward me with deliberate slowness. Just then, as he passed Chen Xiao, the latter suddenly lunged and tackled him to the ground. Before anyone could react, Chen Xiao smashed his fist into the man's eye. With bloodshot eyes, he roared, "It's all your fault, you damned bitch ruined my life. I'll kill you. Why do you get off scot-free while I take all the blame?" Chen Xiao kept shouting as he threw punch after punch, each blow fueled by sheer rage. The crowd erupted into chaos as people rushed to pull Chen Xiao off Ji Shiming. But it was too late. Ji Shiming lay sprawled on the ground, his face drenched in blood, his breathing shallow and labored. With bitter resentment, he fixed his gaze on me, lips trembling as if trying to speak, yet no sound emerged before his eyes closed forever. Shielded by my parents, I was ushered away while Ji Shiming was stretchered to the hospital, and Chen Xiao was dragged back to his cell. Chen Xiao beat Ji Shiming so severely that the latter suffered brain damage and became vegetative. Chen Xiao's smug expression completely vanished upon hearing his life sentence verdict. He kept screaming all day, even attempting suicide multiple times while muttering, "I'll restart my life. Next time I'll do way better than this." Rumor has it Chen Xiao attacked a prison guard attempting murder, but the officer shot him in self-defense. Chen Xiao survived the ordeal, but came back a changed man, vacant-eyed and prone to bursting into tears or laughter at the sky. But none of that concerned me anymore. With freshman year finally over, I felt weightless with relief. My parents asked, "Ting Ting, how about a family trip?" "Perfect," I beamed. "Let's all go on vacation together." The end.